This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Without a healthy mind, being happy is hard. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny and see if online therapy is for you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to PSI Love You XOXO episode 82. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the future class of video games blessing, Adioye Jr.
Greg Miller, if PlayStation made you the boss for one day and they gave you the task of exchanging one PlayStation studio with another publisher studio, what's your course of action?
So it's a trade? Like I have to give them something?
Yes.
Does it have to be, is there a judiciary body that's saying like, oh, this has to be like of the same value? You know what I mean? Can I give them something nobody wants? No offense to whatever. As I'm saying it, I'm like, what PlayStation studio am I about to insult?
Say what you need to say about Insomniac, Greg.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not going to give up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, shit, fuck, this is a good one. Let me introduce, of course, our third co-host, who I assume is going to answer this question as well. She, ladies and gentlemen, is the game-playing roller skating. It's Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good? I'm back from vacation.
Congratulations. Welcome
back.
Yep, I didn't go anywhere, but it was still nice.
Well, staycations are awesome. You need those. You know what I mean? Did you play a lot of games?
No, not too many. I like to just do stuff I never get to do. You know, like I always play games all the time as part of work. So I just watched like all of season 1 of Ted Lasso. I played some games though, but that was a good time.
Also, I appreciate you hosted Kinda Funny Games Daily today, and then you come on PS I Love You wardrobe change. I appreciate that quite a bit.
Yeah, you have to. Well, it gets like warm under the lights, and also to be honest, I was like running somewhat late, so I didn't get to make like a thoughtful choice in my clothes for Games Daily. So this was, and I know you're thinking, wow, this is what you came up with. You know, you don't have to be mean. Like this is as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets. Okay, but it's, you know, it's a little bit more polished, I think.
My favorite thing about taking Monday mornings off for the last month is seeing Janet actually do my job and seeing her make the decisions that every now and then I'll make the same thing, because I also like to do the wardrobe change between KFGD into PS I Love You, but it's that thing where I'm like, does anybody notice? Does anybody care? Like, am I doing this for nothing, or am I just doing this for myself? And I love
called out.
I love that
for you and the people.
When you're a lead host on Games Daily and you wear this polo, like I didn't put it together that's why you were wearing the polo until I called you out on it. You're like, well, it's like how you used to wear this shirt and tie. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's really good.
Yeah. It's my own thing. It's my own way to be formal, semi-formal.
I'm still stuck on the question. Like, who do we want to? Want to poach from somewhere else and bring in?
I was thinking about this in the shower because I knew I wanted to.
It's a studio, right? Like
it's studio for studio. I was thinking about this in the shower because I knew I wanted to pop this question up here. And my methodology, I'll give you my answer right away, is I am going to trade Media Molecule over to Xbox. Not because
you want to get on Game Pass, get Dreams on Game Pass. Is that why?
Yes, that is actually exactly my reasoning. I think Dreams would thrive on Game Pass in a way that is way better than it's being handled now. Like, I think Dreams on Game Pass would get into way more people's hands.
So in this trade, you're looking out for Xbox over here? Is that what's happening? Is that what I'm hearing?
Right? What the hell? What are we getting from it? What are we getting?
Well, we're getting Playground games. We're getting one of my favorite. What's wrong with Playground? I love Playground.
Nothing wrong with Playground, but I don't know.
Here's my thing as well.
I'll just take Bethesda, to be honest.
I didn't specify. I mean, that's the easy answer. PlayStation has had Bethesda games in the past. That's uncreative. Like,
Listen, where the fuck were you for Motorstorm? Where were you for Mod Nation Racers?
Business.
Don't give me this Playground game stuff. You didn't support it. You got Polyphony Digital. Don't even worry about this.
But that's my thing is, all right, cool. Playground, they make dope-ass Forza Horizon games. What does a Gran Turismo Horizon look like? You know, what happens when we start to give some of PlayStation's racing franchises over to Playground? And then also, PlayStation, you mentioned Bethesda, right? PlayStation could use some more Western RPGs. Playground, they're working on a Fable. Why don't we just get them to work on a different Western RPG for PlayStation as well?
A little bit more fun. I will say, looking at the list of names of studios, it does feel like a mean question, because I'm like, I'm not going front. I'm looking at Ben, and I'm like, what if we just did a little trade scene?
Because my thing is, I'm doing this for the benefit of not only PlayStation but the video games industry. Give Media Molecule over to Xbox. I think Xbox treats Media Molecule a bit better, or at least like they treat them the way they should be treated in terms of Dreams is a very niche thing. Let's put this on Game Pass, and maybe let's highlight some Dreams. Put like the actual Dreams games in Dreams on Game Pass. See how that works out. I think there are things you can do there that benefits both sides. That's what I'm looking at. Greg Miller's type.
I'm running number over. Well, my thing is like, I don't want this to be like when you were trying to trade something with your friends, right? And you're like, I want that limited edition thing, and I will give you a piece of Bazooka Joe and this like banged up card that I have triplicates of that I don't want anymore, right? Because like, I'm trying to think who I can get. Not even, I don't want to say at a steal. You know what I mean? Because like I cleared the mechanism. And you said I'm in charge for one day. I get to make this happen, right?
And it's immediately reversed. What a day it was.
Like, no, this contract is not out of arbitration. It's over. What I'm drawn to is a conversation we've had on this show recently, right? I cleared my mind. What did it pop back up? Bam, Supermassive Games. Let's get them on board as a first party. Let's get them with time, resources, assets for exclusive Until Dawn's. Just, we drop Dark Pictures Anthology. We come back to Until Dawn. It's Until Dawn, : we do the whole thing, and we go this way with it. And so then I look at the list of Sony studios, right? I'm wondering, I know you're going to laugh me out of the room immediately, but is Nix's software on the table?
Okay.
Fuck the PC games, all right? Fuck this porting shit, all right? PC players, buy a goddamn console. I'm not looking out for you. I'm looking out for us.
Is that a trade? Supermassive isn't owned by anybody, right?
Well, no. Well, I don't know. I see. It has to be.
Yeah, they're not. I don't think they're right. I don't.
I mean,
in this theory. Okay, hold on. I can fix it. I understand the question better. I'm sorry. You are correct. Then what about this then? I trade with them to get them away from Bandai Namco. I take them away and we take on the Dark Pictures Anthology exclusively and we get to do what we want. Does that work better? Does that go back to that? Okay, cool. And then Bandai Namco gets Nix's.
If we want something more, I guess, interesting, Blessing, couldn't include that in the question, but it's fine. I guess I would trade Pixel Opus for Ninja Theory.
It's a good trade.
Because I feel like with Hellblade, I I feel like that kind of narrative storytelling emphasis feels at home with PlayStation. So that's why, and I figured it's like a less bougie pick than just take 343 and just take Halo.
See,
that's less crazy than something like that. So
I wanted to throw in the modifier, but I wanted to see how you guys answered the question first. But before I threw it in, what if you couldn't take the IP? What if you got the studio, but the studio had to work with one of your IP, and vice versa? Then what would you pick? And I'll also throw in another modifier of what would be the most interesting trade you can make. Not even necessarily like, hey, I want to make the big money move. I'm going to get rid of Nix's because I don't give a fuck about Nix's and get 343.
Sorry, Nix's. You did great on the Avengers stuff you did, but I gotta make some cuts here.
Nix's, you did great at your 2 weeks at PlayStation. Goodbye now. What is the most interesting trade you can make?
Probably something involving Team Asobi, just because I think they're a really interesting studio.
Give Team Asobi to Nintendo to work on some kind of Astrobot. Or not Astrobot, a Nintendo crossover that is something like Astrobot.
Yeah.
And then as PlayStation, you take on Retro. Though I don't know what they would make for PlayStation. That's the only thing.
You have Mojang Studios make
Mojang.
Mojang, yeah.
Remember when they blew our mind when they first said that on an Xbox stage? We're like, that's how you pronounce it?
I hate those moments. Or there's the Ubisoft, and it's it's. I like that one though because you can kind of choose your own adventure with it. No one's really gonna correct either one. You can just pick whatever you feel.
Well, there's a correct answer though. It's Ubisoft. Ubiquitous software.
Ubiquitous, yeah.
It's like
maybe.
Sorry, Jeff.
I feel like there's. I still feel like there's potential in compulsion games. The developers really happy few. I know that game didn't hit for most people, but it had some interesting ideas. So maybe the opposite of a sophomore slump, right? Even though I have to say that's the first thing they ever did, but yeah. So I mean, Rare, I think for Nintendo trades, Rare is an interesting one. But Rare hasn't been. Yeah, I ain't gotta talk about y'all know what it is with Rare. It hasn't exactly been super wavy there.
People love Sea of Thieves, right? Sea of Thieves seems to be a big success now.
That's true.
And I think a PlayStation could use something that is a live service game that is building community in the way that Sea of Thieves does.
But now I'm lost. So are they bringing the IP or not bringing the IP?
Not bringing.
You're not bringing the IP, but they're bringing like the vibes, like the energy,
the studio talent.
To similar to what we're talking about, of getting you to your media molecule one, right? Getting them on a larger scale, getting them in front of more people. I think London studio could be a good one there too. Of send London to Xbox, and they're making Xbox Game Pass games or whatever. We had a whole question that got written in that didn't make it, of like how last week I was talking about like, the Ascent or whatever is good enough for an Xbox Game Pass game, right? Like there's a different bar of quality for what a PlayStation exclusive is when you talk about a Naughty Dog, when you talk about a Guerrilla, when you talk about now Housemarque, right? Versus stuff that like I loved the Getaway way back in the day, but Blood and Truth on PlayStation VR, right? Like, which was a great London game, but like it's a VR game, which meant you have to have VR expectations, which means et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if they were to go do shorter, quicker experiences for Xbox that were like the VR version of what they did, but coming out quicker on Xbox and being just a controller game, that could be something interested to raise their profile quicker than just, making stuff right now and doing that. That could be an interesting one to get over there. Obviously, I'd love to see Double Fine on PlayStation. I think we're all excited for Psychonauts 2 right now, which will be their grand farewell to the PlayStation platform, right? I think they make such weird, quirky games. That's always, a callback to what I fell in love with about PlayStation, which was weird and quirky stuff on the PS3, whether it be, The Last Guy or something like that.
One I'd like to see Respawn at PlayStation. When we talk about the kind of games that we'd love to see more of on PlayStation, Respawn are those guys in terms of the first-person shooters. Like you look at how good Apex is, and I think that could be really cool to have in the PlayStation portfolio. Though I don't know what trade I'll then make to EA to get Respawn. Because like part of me would be like, oh man, I wonder how a Naughty Dog owned by EA would look like, right? Like, does that change Naughty Dog entirely?
Why would you
like,
curse Naughty Dog with that?
Well, like, would Naughty Dog then kind of take the place? Because I look at Respawn as the studio for EA, like the studio that's doing things right over there at EA.
Sure.
Does that then become Naughty Dog? Does Naughty Dog continue to then carry that flag and then influence the rest of EA to go, oh shit, maybe we should start chasing this? Or does it then take Naughty Dog? It does have the opposite effect. I think that could be an interesting experiment to have.
I think you'd lose so much from the transition, right? Where I think you'd see a brain drain from Naughty Dog of people being like, I don't want to be associated with EA, or I don't want to, go. Again, obviously, I'm the first one usually to be like, I don't think EA is as bad as people make out EA to be. So even right now, I'm talking very negatively about it. But I think there'd be that more, and I know this is goofy, but stick with me, more corporate approach to game making than Sony is. I think Sony, while a business and, while obviously trying to make as much money as possible, they are, from everything I've ever heard from people on the inside and, over dinners and things that, people do not need to be guarded with, they are interested in making really great games. And they are obviously, I think we've seen it time and time again, interested in maintaining their pedigree and what the IP they've built, and give people the room to delay games and that be okay. Whereas I think in the EA, you would see, granted, it's gotten a lot better over the more recent years. You'd still see hey, get it out in the case of something like Jedi Fallen Order, which, was my game of the year. But how many bugs were there? How many crashes were there? How many problems were there with that game?
It was a rough time.
Yeah.
I played it like at near launch and on a base Xbox One. Did not work. Also, that map choices were made. It's that game had a lot of things going on with it, but I also think it did have, it laid a decent base. I think too, when we're thinking of like studio potential, like I think Fallen Order is one that like I didn't fall in love with, but I probably would come back a second time around to see if those things have been like, primed and polished. I do like the idea of just from like a ridiculous standpoint. Can you imagine like EA Play, like the Vive EA Play, but then like that lone guitar?
Oh yeah, we're just sports.
It's like outdoors. There's like a soccer match happening.
Yeah,
but that'd be cool. Like their throat slit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be interesting from the perspective of what does that if Naughty Dog then becomes the leading studio for EA, what would that do to an EA Play? Because you
say that, and I mean, like
around it.
The question I would throw back in your face, like really quick, and you want to see it coming, right? Is Respawn already doing that? You know what I mean? Like we do talk about the fact that Respawn is such a killer EA studio, right? And doing so much right. And that I loved Fallen Order. Obviously, you love Apex. You see, Vince Zampella, getting moved over to basically restart the other studio, right? Like and make that in their image. Like I would say Respawn's already doing that. Not the same direction, and I should say that. Not maybe to the caliber of a Naughty Dog, but right now we're applying what Naughty Dog is today versus what Naughty Dog is after it ships Uncharted 2, right?
Oh yeah, like we're talking about quality, right? Like and I would say, yeah, Respawn is that for EA right now, where you named right Apex, you named Jedi Fallen Order, but then Titanfall 2. When I think of the most well-regarded EA games over the last generation, I often come back to Respawn, and yeah, it seems like EA is trying to lean into that more and more as they do. Yeah, have Vince Zampella working at this new studio and doing all that stuff, and so yeah, I mean, for me, it is in this theoretical situation of trading studios where if I as the PlayStation boss for a day take Respawn, in my Thanos trying to reorganize the MCU universe, I'm gonna put a Naughty Dog or somebody or an Insomniac or somebody who I think would shift the culture at EA there so that they can lead that flag if Respawn isn't there to kind of lead that charge for them.
I think Insomniac would fit so much better, just given like EA also has like a vibe, like their game, like other than EA Originals, which is kind of like it's their cool like indie stuff. Like we think of like Apex, it's like okay, like big deal, shoots. Then we think of Jedi Fallen Order, it's like yeah, the shoots. I mean it's like yeah, it's ongoing. It's like kind of intense, and then like with Star Wars, like it's freaking Star Wars. So there's sort of like again, with as much flack as EA gets, a lot of times for rightful reasons, sure, they have like a grandiosity to a lot of their titles, or like an ongoing nature to a lot of their titles. Like it's not just a game you play and you finish for the most part. It's like you live in here, you live in FIFA, you live in Apex. Like you're in here and it's a big deal. We got a big stage. We're doing big things. It's competitive. It's intense. Oh, we got Originals over here. And then it's like, that's kind of, so I think Insomniac, because of the, like if we think of like Ratchet and Clank and everything, like it just kind of feels more in that like fun loving vibe than like when I think of Naughty Dog, I think of like, it's time to kill and fry, it's like, it's intense. And I feel like that doesn't really fit like the vibe that EA has. I mean, even think of like what EA Play is. It's very much like outdoorsy, like festival-y. Like it has like a certain kind of energy to it that I don't think matches like Naughty Dog.
Yeah, like EA doesn't do prestige in the way that I think when we think of Naughty Dog, they
don't do gloom and doom,
Is there, and then also the gloom and doom energy isn't there as much with EA. I also like the idea of, if PlayStation were to pick up a Respawn, would they pick up Killzone? Like, would they pick up Resistance as an IP, or is it something entirely new with the premise of not being able to pick up IP that they were working on over at EA?
Well, this is the most complicated contract I've ever heard in my life. So, yeah. All right, cool. You've been hired for one day. You can do this, but they can't touch their old things and they can't touch other old things. Like, oh my fucking God, what is happening? Why did this happen?
All right, so final decisions. I'm sticking with my original. I'm giving Meet a Molecule.
It's very clear that we don't know what the PlayStation boss does. I think. Really, you just have bullets out of me.
I assume this is what Jim Ryan does all day.
Yeah, like he just sits around talking shit, just hypothetical. It's like, but what if? It's like, what if? But the PlayStation universe, that would be fun. I forgot what my second one was. Where since girls be on my boring choice, I guess I would go. What was it? It was Pixel Opus for
Ninja Theory.
Where was it at? Yes, Ninja Theory. So yeah, it's fun. It's like a not crazy A/S tier, but like it's intriguing. So yeah, do that swap.
I'm sticking with giving Bandai Namco Nix's software, taking back Supermassive on this deal. That's what I'm doing.
Oh yeah,
Bandai's like, why are we involved? What is this? We have nothing. We port games to PC already. We make PC games. Why are we getting this?
I like the idea of like the Bandai Namco boss is showing up to work one day, and like the entire Nix's staff is just there, and he's like, "Who are you guys?" He's like, "Oh, you didn't know?"
Like a who?
He's like, "Why the? All right."
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is PS I Love You XOXO. Each and every week, Blessing, Janet, and myself come together to nerd out about all things PlayStation. If you like that, you head over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You give us your questions, your comments, your concerns, everything under the Shuhei sun. Then, of course, on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you could watch us record the show live, just like Demetrius Newell is, Cap Charisma is, and Ryan Poala Higgins are. Of course, you could get the show ad-free. Of course, you could get it with the exclusive post show we do each and every week. However, if you have no bucks to throw our way over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, it's no big deal. You can get each and every episode Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and worldwide on podcast services around the globe. No matter where you get the show, thank you for your support. Consider like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. For now, though, housekeeping. There's a new episode of The Blessing Show up right now on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Blessing, it is incredible.
Thank you. Everybody should go check that out. We worked really hard on it. Roger edited his ass off for that episode. And yeah, it's like a 20-minute long thing. Usually the episodes of The Blessing Show are under 10 minutes long, but we wanted to do a really cool special event. And so we got to, make a longer episode. We got to interview folks like Derek Yu, who did Splunky. And then we also got to interview Harry Kruger from Returnal, the lead over there on Returnal. And so if you like that, if you like roguelites, if you like those games, if you like games like Hades and other roguelites, highly recommend you check out this new episode of The Blessing Show.
100%. It's great. Looks great edits. And I appreciate Blessing. You took all the feedback from season 1, started incorporating in there. And like you had said something, right? Like this is the closest it's been to your vision of what you wanted it to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was pitching the idea of The Blessing Show, both me and Roger were talking about what we wanted it to be. And like one of the things I would reference would be John Oliver and Hassan Minhaj of the Patriot Act. And like I really wanted to take something like that and turn it into like a video game focused show. And yeah, I would say that this very much mirrors the exact vision I had for it, right? Like it's in terms of polish, in terms of everything we learned from doing season 1, we were able to take that in and really figure out how to make things work. There are so many hurdles to jump over in terms of working from home and trying to make a show like this from home that it's hard to figure out. Like, even things as simple as glare on my glasses are like such a challenge that people wouldn't imagine. As simple as it sounds, like, for a lot of the show right now, it requires me memorizing lines to perform on camera. And that's the thing that, like we've tried getting teleprompters, we've tried, having the script on the monitor, but that leads to me not looking at the camera. And it's like, it's X thing leads to Y thing leads to Z thing, whenever it comes to trying to do a production like this. And I think we finally climbed to the point where we feel very good about where it's at. At least I feel very good about where it's at. And, I'm very excited for where it goes. We announced that it's coming back to you regularly. The schedule for The Blessing Show is going to be the first Thursday of every month. And so look forward to it there. And I can't wait for people to see the next few episodes we're working on. And I can't wait for the future of it in general.
My brother was really specifically, I've watched plenty of the show too, but my brother like loves the show a lot. And he was like, oh, I'm so glad it's back. He literally before that episode dropped, he was just rewatching old episodes that you did. Like I think I'm sure he's not alone in that kind of love for like, the creativity of it. Like what I like about it is even though they all have like the same general construction, I never quite know like what kind of things I'm going to see. Like, Dream U still haunts me to this day. I'll never forget it, no matter how hard I try.
Oh yeah. My favorite thing is we announced it last Tuesday. And later in the afternoon, I literally saw the tweet from your brother being like, bring back The Blessing Show. And I was like,
oh yeah, he was like, they listened.
Yeah, I was like, should I reply and let him know? Or maybe he'll just see it on Thursday. Who knows? But
we listened to our one fan. And we're happy to announce The Blessing Show is back.
Thanks, Janet's brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, be like Janet's brother. Go check it out on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Remember, The Blessing Show is one of the few things we only do on YouTube. So it'd mean a lot if you went over to youtube.com/kindafunnygames and checked it out. We know the thousands and thousands and thousands of you that only listen to the podcast. And we appreciate you and love you, but check out the channel. You should also be like our Patreon producers, Julian, the gluten-free gamer, James Hastings, Casey Andrew, Elliot, and Brian Ward. They all went to patreon.com/kindafunnygames and supported us.
Nice.
Iced coffee. Oh, I got a little iced coffee bottle. You know what I mean? Man. This is when I'm going to get nuts today, Blessing Janet.
No.
This is
what does it look like? It looks like those, what are those called? Like the little alcohol orbs? Buzz balls? That's what it looks like. Because it's like,
it's normal water. For a second, I thought you were going to say it looked like a True Blood from the show True Blood, if you remember that. No,
I was going
to say it looked like a potion from some kind of Western RPG.
Lost Coast Roast. There's a lot going on that branding.
There's a lot going on. I've been on this thing of trying to find the successor to the Busan train. You know what I mean? So
that's do you not have the? Oh yeah, because you moved.
I
right?
moved. I'm not by that Korean supermarket anymore.
There will be no true successor to Busan.
Now, can you hold that back up to the camera? I want to see.
Blessing for you. I can do anything.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it is what I thought. That font where it says Lost Coast Roast. I swear to God, I see that font pop up everywhere.
It kind of looks like. I was gonna say originally Pirates of the Caribbean. It actually looks a lot like Outriders.
Yeah, it does have Outriders.
Who ripped off
the unofficial copy of Outriders.
Yeah, I mean the influence of Outriders is felt.
Yeah, it
worldwide.
emanates.
Every day, you can't get away from the
They
influence
say
of
Outriders is the pitbull of video games. You know, they call it
changed
Mr.
video
Worldwide.
games forever. It's hard to believe it was still this year that it did it, but here we are. We're living in a post-Outriders world. We're also living in a world where this episode is sponsored by Upstart Honey and Sennheiser, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with topic of the show. I was gonna say, Janet, you better fucking say tots. All right.
I know. I came in late. But I got there. Also, there's like someone doing yard work outside of my window, which was left open. So I'm gonna try to get that fixed.
Don't worry about it. You're fine. Tots this week is us cheating a lot because there's just so much happening in the world of PlayStation that I feel like we don't need to bring in a question. We don't need to have a topic that is anything other than all the awesome stuff we're playing on PlayStation that's happening on PlayStation. And so I know we've all been playing a bunch of games and I want to talk about that. But of course, I want to stick to what is the rubric, the metric, the body of the show, and go right to PlayStation updates. So, Blessing, what has been going on with PlayStation VR 2?
Of course, PlayStation updates, your greatest hits of PlayStation news for the week. Let's start off with PSVR 2. We got some new details. I'm going to pull from Ian Carlos Campos over at The Verge, who titles the article, Sony's next-gen PSVR was reportedly detailed at a developer summit. It reads like this. More and more details for Sony's planned next-generation PlayStation virtual reality headset appear to be popping up. According to the YouTube channel PSVR Without Parole, with further corroboration from Upload VR, Sony held a developer summit on Tuesday where it detailed new information about the controllers and game development strategy for the sequel to PSVR and seemed to confirm some features that have already been reported. Among the new details, the next-gen PSVR controllers, or NGVR controllers, based on what PSVR Without Parole claims is the codename for the device, can reportedly not only detect when you're holding the controller and touching buttons, but also how far away your fingers are. The feature sounds a bit like the radar detection that Google's built in to its phones and smart home devices in the past with the Soli chip. Sony also reportedly told developers it's looking to pursue a hybrid model for future AAA releases on PlayStation, the goal being having optional VR support for all major releases, similar to what Resident Evil 7 and No Man's Sky received on the PS4 and PS5. As far as we know, a console is still required to use PSVR, but if this plan is true, you can choose to play major AAA titles in VR or on your TV going forward. Greg, I know you and I have played a lot of PSVR. Janet, I don't think I've ever gotten your PSVR history. Are you a PSVR person?
Yeah.
So like what?
Camera off, show over for Janet.
Yes, I've played PSVR once or twice. So how do you guys feel about this new strategy in terms of trying to marry the traditional AAA video game experience with having a VR mode akin to something like Resident Evil 7?
I think it's smart to like onboard people, but at the same time, like I think the best VR experiences are still most likely going to be in stuff that's like baked in for VR specifically. You know, like Greg, you had mentioned like how there's kind of like a different barometer for like or meter for whether or not a game is good if it's on VR. Now, I will say sometimes people use that to be like, it's good for a VR game. Like I kind of don't really like giving necessarily that pass, but I will say what a good experience in VR is like is different than, you know, any other game because of like the way that it like uses immersion or the way that it may use like your positioning as a player or the fact that like, you know, it is in VR and that changes the vibe and the experience. It makes it like more personal if it's like an intense story. It makes it more scary if it's a horror thing. It makes it more thrilling if it's like, you know, there's stuff I've done in VR that I think is amazing. But if I were to watch that on a TV, I'd be like, we're just looking at like a mountain. But I'm like, no, man, I'm in the National Geographic thing on Oculus Quest. Like I'm in there, man. I'm taking pictures of penguins. Like I'm living for it. That wouldn't hit the same on a TV setting. 100%. So I think it's cool. And I like the idea of like having a little bit of that integration. It also gives you a little bit more, you know, juice out of the orange. Cause I will say as like a PSVR owner, it's kind of like, all right, this is cool for like these couple experiences, but I don't get as much use out of it as everything else. And given the price point, et cetera, like I think anything to make VR more enticing, I'm here for. But what I think what's going to like live or die is how good their VR specific stuff ends up being.
Yeah, I think for me, it's everything Janet said, of course, but I think it's also the best laid intentions where it's like, this always sounds like a great idea, right? Of like, oh man, reportedly it's looking to pursue hybrid model for future AAA releases on PlayStation. But what is that actually going to net out to be? It's exactly what Janet said, that the best VR experiences, I think, are VR exclusive. They are built from the ground up for VR. And this was the thing, if you remember, going back to Severed, when Severed was on Vita and everybody was playing it and loving it, there were conversations with Drinkbox about either VR or just a console thing. And they're like, you have to understand, like, It was VR. You have to understand that like we built this game where there's no ceiling or floor. Like you don't look around at those, right? So it's like that's not how the game is. You'd have to go this different way, like blah blah blah. It has to be from the ground up for it. And so it sounds cool on paper to think about AAA releases on PlayStation having it, but what does that actually net out to be? I remember when like BioShock Infinite used PlayStation Move, and it used it like in one very specific mode that nobody fucking played the game in and nobody cared. It was a waste of everybody's time and resources. And it's the same thing where you see, when Sony was really pushing 3D TVs and people, are you actually going to build your game around that or do it something other than that? Or is it, how turnkey is it? And the answer was it was cool enough, but not enough to move the needle and make people go buy 3D TVs. I think it's a similar thing here where this sounds cool. I don't see it netting out in the same way Resident Evil 7 did, or for that matter, No Man's Sky did. But then you start getting into the question of how much do we want this and how much are you looking forward to this? And it's, Blessing, you led with, of course, we've talked at length, for more than a year of the show about PlayStation VR and our experiences with it, right? But at some point, for myself, I have to have that gut check, look in the mirror moment, right? Where I'm always like, I love PlayStation VR. I can't wait to see what PlayStation VR 2 is. That's all true, but I'm starting to think, did I love PlayStation VR? Like, is it a past tense? I loved PlayStation VR because I moved in April and I haven't set it up once. And even before then, when I used it really hardcore for Iron Man, and I was like, oh man, it was traditional, the job of, I'm going to platinum this. Okay, wait, I got to move on to this other review, this other thing. And then it would be that at the end of the day, like I should get back to Iron Man and work on the platinum. But what was it always? I'm tired. I don't want to stand in the middle of my living room to get the best experience out of this. I don't want to, have that moment of motion sick. I don't want that kind of experience, right? Let alone in, the live chat right now on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Demetrius Newell says, love some PSVR. It just sucks setting it up and tearing it down. And that's
terrible to set up. Like my YouTube history is just riddled with like how to set up this thing. And there's like so many moving parts too. Like you have to remember, like if you haven't done it in a while, it's like, okay, you got to make sure the lighting is good enough too for like the camera to see you. And then there's that moment where you're like, oh, just kidding. I had the camera upside down, and you reprop it. And then it has like that really flimsy, like kind of like a hook almost to like get onto your TV. And it's like, hope this doesn't fall down. Like I honestly, my hack for PSVR's like convoluted setup is that I just have all the pieces plugged in at all times, and then I just plug in the main stuff. So literally like I have, like any gamer, I only have my furniture from IKEA. So it's like I have that little 3-drawer setup. Y'all know the one. If you have it, you have it. It has those janky see-through, not see-through drawers. That's the one. I've been having that for forever. And it kind of has like some sort of either retro or older consoles in it at this point. Though I've started slotting more old stuff because I have the space now that all the next-gen stuff's above the shelf. Sure. And the third drawer is just like, I organize them all like over my break, but the third drawer is still just like PSVR garbage drawer where it's just like the box and the headset and like the wires, and then there's like the Move controllers, and it's a whole ordeal. So I think too, though, with like this story about stuff being like more integrated, at least you can kind of decide that it'll be like a VR experience. Because one thing that I do think ends up being weaker is like the half measures that we've seen, like things like with no shade to this team, but like Concrete Genie has a VR mode and it's really cool. I like it a lot. It's like you get to pin and it's awesome. But it's like, it's just the side mode. And like, am I really going to dig out the headset just for this thing? So
you nail it, right? Like the Concrete Genie, I think the base game is so good and so heartwarming, so much fun. And then there is a VR mode that I thought was beautiful and relaxing and cool. But for the enormous amount of people who got I shouldn't say bought, but who got Concrete Genie, right? Because it was a PlayStation Plus game. How many of them ventured into that PSVR mode? And then on top of that, how many of them who got it for free or bought the game were motivated by that one mode to go get it? Look at it. There it is. She's got it. She's all set. Yeah. It's like, and so like, then you get into again, like, are these developers wasting their time and resources making this thing that a fraction of the player base is going to do? And, I think one of the reasons you hold on to Pixel Opus as a first party and do all this stuff with them is they are a team that could do PlayStation VR 2 stuff. I'm not giving them. No, we're not doing that trade. Trade's not happening.
The trade ruined everything. I think too, like, you mentioned, do I love PSVR or do I like love the idea of PSVR, right? I definitely love the idea more than the implementation, but like, I'm going down with a ship. Like a lot of Sony's side projects, handheld, just take me down with you. I don't care because I like the concept of it and I want to see it move forward. Admittedly, there's not a whole lot there. And much like the way of like the Wii U or any other thing that's not that popular, you like try to get people in on it and you're like, no. But like, Astro though, like you got to, and then then more stuff gets ported to other stuff, and then you're like, I guess this becomes less and less of a thing to push for. Especially, I think what's tough is like, and I'm just pro VR in general, but it'll be interesting seeing like what the PSVR 2 sell is in a world where we have like the Oculus Quest 2 and the Go and all of that stuff. I think, if anything, I think that speaks to what they're doing here, where they're like, okay, let's try to get some of our games that we already have in VR mode, because that is inherently exclusive and inherently like, oh, I need PSVR if I want like Resident Evil 9 or whatever in VR, because I can't get that anywhere else. While you see a lot of other of these games like they do eventually end up getting ported, and I feel like those ports will happen faster, which I don't fault the teams for. I mean, I want more people to play games like Moss and all these other experiences and like Tetris Effect. But it does make it okay. Well, why am I buying, if I'm gonna go VR? Why would I go PSVR 2 when I have these other options?
Yeah, to me, I think that is the thing. Is it's a little bit of a selling point in terms of, okay, well, if Resident Evil 9 has a VR mode that comes with the console version, that's not really something you can sell on Oculus Quest as easily, right? You would have to do something that is completely exclusive to Oculus Quest versus having a mode that you can put in a bunch of different games. If as PlayStation, you're actually able to convince a lot of third-party developers to put those modes in your games. I think that's where this gets really conflicting. Is this is the less exciting answer to, all right, how are you going to go about getting AAA games on PlayStation VR? Because I think we've had this conversation multiple times on the show in terms of, all right, who's going to make the VR games? You think about things like Vita, you think about things like Move, and you look back to how PlayStation would put out these cool pieces of hardware that just wouldn't get the support from first party. They would end up getting support by either third party or indies. And for VR, I think that window gets a little bit smaller in terms of who's going to be able to actually make games for this thing. And so, like, if as PlayStation, and if you have PlayStation Studios and you have Naughty Dog making theoretically the next big Naughty Dog game, you have Sucker Punch making the next Ghost of Tsushima, you have Insomniac making the next Spider-Man or the next Ratchet, who do you have open to actually make big games on this thing? And if the answer is, oh, we're gonna go to our third parties to have AAA VR modes in their games, or we're going to have maybe a VR mode for Spider-Man, or we're going to have a mode for this. Yeah, that is something that you can have on your platform that isn't available on other VR platforms, which will give you that edge. But also, I don't think that is the end all be all. I think that is an additional feature, but not the main event. And I think for PSVR, you need some sort of main event. PSVR, the original PSVR sold pretty well compared to other VR because it had the thing of, it is connected to PlayStation. So many people already have PlayStations, and it is a cheaper way to get into VR. Yep. But when you look at the other options that keep coming through in terms of VR, Oculus Quest is more and more of a sell. And the one thing that's kind of keeping Oculus Quest back, or the couple of things that are keeping Oculus Quest back, one, the Facebook integration. People don't love that.
Facebook's rough.
Yeah, Facebook stuff is rough. But then also you don't have the big like AAA VR releases available to play on Oculus Quest wireless, stuff like Half-Life Alyx, right? That can't come out, and you can't play that exclusively on your Oculus Quest without actually connecting that to the computer, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of it being untethered. And so VR is in an interesting place because for these different VR platforms, all of them have pluses and minuses to them. And for PlayStation, I think they could seal the deal if they had exclusive VR games, if they had an actual slate of games. Because talking about do we love VR? Do we love the idea of VR? Where are we at with VR? I will say there was a period of time where I truly stood by, PSVR is actually the shit right now. And that was when we were getting Tetris Effect and Astrobot and whatchamacallit, Moss and Trover Saves the Universe. Firewall 0 Hour.
PSVR is great. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, there's not. You can sit there and talk about the library. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's an incredible library, and the library
without looking anything up. No one can do it. No one's ever done it in the history of time.
But the that's the thing is the library, I think over time is kind of chilled out. It feels like they've took their feet off the gas in terms of PSVR, and that's probably them setting up for PSVR 2. But then also, the hardware is such a slog to set up. I'm in the exact same place as Greg in terms of when I moved, or ever since I've moved to this new apartment, I have not taken out my PSVR, and that is approaching about a year now that I moved to this place, and I've had no reason to really want to take that thing out. When we talked about last year, right, it was Iron Man VR, which I tried and I didn't love, and then The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners
Saints
VR
and Sinners,
game.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, which I heard great things about, but it wasn't enough of itself for me to want to bust out my PSVR and try and play through that thing. And so there's a long way to go in terms of actually making PSVR something that can actually really speak to the PlayStation audience in a way that goes beyond play it with this game that you already own or like play this exclusive mode. I think they got to go way further than that.
Yeah, and that'll be fascinating for what happens with PSVR 2, right? Because it's that thing where I don't even remember anymore. Sometime there was a games cast, and I've said it obviously a million shows since then of like, it broke my heart to say it, but I could see there not being a PlayStation VR 2. And I think I had said that after they already announced it, of them pulling the plug on it. And honestly, I could still see them doing that. I know it sounds crazy because they're clearly so far into it, but it is that thing of, as we talked about last week, right? And like how PlayStation, despite all their mistakes, continues to make money and be successful. Like, if it really is over there, at the upper echelons of this, of like, what is PlayStation? PlayStation is amazing single player premium games that we are making that have stories and characters and rich worlds and shit like that. Like, PlayStation VR, I can see some of those games fitting into that description, but then I also see them back to what Jan and I were talking about, right? Of it's pretty good for a VR game. Like, it's, and granted, I remember working at IGN when everything was, man, this is pretty good. This is a great game for a downloadable game. When we be talking about getting a Geometry Wars or we weren't saying Super Rub-a-Dub was good, but like stuff like that of like, these new ventures.
You have to be there.
Obviously, you need to go and, make the investment and build on it and do all these different things to get to where you are having AAA amazing experiences come out of it. But I also think there's bean counters at PlayStation. Like, why are we wasting our time with this? And then why would we want to peel Naughty Dog off and tell them, hey, go make this VR mode or do something like that? I don't know.
I'm surprised that they've made it this far with PSVR 2, because for us as part of the audience and people who talk about PlayStation on podcasts all the time, I look at it and I'm like, man, if I was PlayStation, I'd be like, yeah, let's cut this thing off, because how much effort is this thing worth? And you look at the decisions they're making with hardware, and they're making some really good decisions with it. Of course, best in the ideal world, it would be wireless and you wouldn't be tethered to a PlayStation. But we know that is too big of a wish.
3.
PSVR 3 maybe, but I feel like we know that that's too big of a wish when the processing is going down in the PS5 box. The reason why PSVR 2 is coming after the launch of PS5 is because you want the power of the PS5 to lend to the power of PSVR 2. And so, like, I get why that's not a thing, but in terms of the headset, in terms of the OLED, in terms of the resolution, in terms of this news story also mentions that the hand tracking or the finger tracking is going to be done like via sensors, right? And so you're gonna be able to do cool shit with your hands in VR, and that sounds cool. That sounds like it could lead to some really promising games. That sounds like it could open the door for maybe a Half-Life Alyx to get ported over to PSVR,
100%.
which could be a really awesome thing. And so they're making some really good decisions, and they're making some big money decisions with this thing. But with these big money decisions, that has to come with big money games. And I wonder what the thing is that they don't, or that they know that we don't. Right? Like, what games do they have in the pocket that they're talking to folks to develop exclusively for PSVR 2 that we just have no idea? Like, what partnership are they going to announce that we have no idea? That has to be the case. That has to be where they're at.
Well, it's what they have to see in it, right? Like,
yeah.
Sorry, 1 second, Janet, right? And I'm sure we're on the same track, right?
I think it's the same thing.
It's not even so much what they know, but in terms of where they think this is going. Like, I remember that GDC, and I know it's an old story of Shuhei coming on our shit and being like, this is the PlayStation 1, we're relaunching, right? But to this point of money and doing this, like, where they see this panning out at the time, that was the gold rush, it felt like, for VR, where obviously there was so much money being thrown around in VC, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then that is obviously dramatically cooled. And again, now you're to this part of PlayStation and PlayStation 5 are this huge mainstream success. Like, PlayStation VR 2 will not be a huge mainstream success. It will not be in everybody's living room. So why keep working on it? And even if it gets really, really good to what we're talking about, right? Like, do they then lose that conversation? If people see it, they get interested in it, like, oh, but it's got one single tether still, and it's all this stuff. And then somebody's like, well, yeah, but Oculus Quest 2, or maybe at that point, Oculus Quest 3 doesn't have tethers. It is this thing. Like, And now it's the flip, right? Of where Lauren Lanning back on the same GDC was like talking to us and being like, oh no, PlayStation is going to be the successful one. It's cheaper, it's good enough, and it's easier to use. Where now you're going to get to PlayStation VR 2 and be like, all right, cool, you need the PlayStation 5 as well. Hopefully it's not as hard to find. It's more expensive because of all the cool shit in the controllers, but the Quest is $150 less and wireless and does all this, and it's good enough. And then is that what would happen if you're actually interested enough to go there?
We shall see.
We shall see.
But for now, let's talk about a question. All right, guys, what is the future of Ghost of Tsushima? I asked this question based on what I'm going to call Exhibit A and Exhibit B.
Oh, we're going to court.
We're going to court. We're going to court. I am the lawyer, I guess, in this scenario. Janet, I'm
You're taking a lot of jobs on today. PlayStation boss, Sony lawyer.
I wear a lot of hats. And so, Janet, you're gonna be the judge, and Greg, I think you're gonna be the defendant in this case.
I'm the defendant. Oh shit. Okay, fuck. Okay, sorry.
I guess Ghost of Tsushima is the defendant.
I'll represent Ghost of Tsushima.
Let's start with Exhibit A. All right, Legends is going standalone. I'm pulling directly from the PlayStation blog, an article written by Darren Bridges over there, and it's titled "Ghost of Tsushima Legends Gets a Standalone Release as New Rivals mode on September 3rd." Yada yada yada. This is basically going into all the details of the Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode and what you can look forward to. First, today we're excited to reveal Rivals, an all-new mode coming to Ghost of Tsushima Legends on September 3rd, including new trophies and cosmetics. In Rivals, 2 teams of 2 will compete to defeat waves of enemies. With each defeated foe, you'll collect Magatama that you can use to harm the other team. For example, you can spend Magatama on shades to block your opponent's purchases, curses, Whatcha Fire, and more. Once you've spent enough Magatama, you'll unlock final stand waves. Complete these before the opposing team to win. Second, at the same time Rivals launches, we'll be releasing the Gear Mastery System. This is a new expansion of the progression systems and rewards for Legends. Players who've earned 110 level gear will now be able to bind it to a class and activate mastery challenges. This will allow a piece of gear's key level to be upgraded to 120 and eventually unlock a second perk slot. Starting on August 20th, the release date of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, we're also releasing an update that will add new features to Legends, including some changes based on feedback from the community. Again, all the above will be available at no additional cost if you already own Ghost of Tsushima. But for those who don't own Ghost of Tsushima yet, but are interested in trying out Legends, starting on September 3rd, we're also offering a new way to buy Legends on its own without the single-player campaign starring Jin Sakai. This new standalone version of Legends will be available on the PlayStation Store starting September 3rd for $19.99. That is $19.99. In addition to all the above, we'll be adding a new piece of content each week from September 10th through October 1st. So that's Exhibit A. Exhibit B is an article from months ago.
What are the charges? This is a kangaroo court. What is happening?
I'm getting there, Your Honor. Wait, no. Janet, you're the Your Honor. I object, Janet. I object.
Get together.
Thank you. Exhibit B, they're hiring for a multiplayer game. This is from an article from Ian Stokes at Games Radar from back in April. Ghost of Tsushima developer Sucker Punch's next game could be a multiplayer title, if their latest job posting is anything to go by. Sucker Punch, the Sony studio behind last year's hit Ghost of Tsushima, is hiring for a new title, and it looks like there will be a multiplayer component to the team's next game. There's currently a job listing for a multiplayer/network programmer on Sucker Punch's website via Gaming Route. The job listing title alone is enough to tell us that Sucker Punch is working, or at least is very interested in working on multiplayer games. But there are some more details in the listing that delve deeper into the role. There is a mention of, quote, cloud systems, peer-to-peer, and peer-to-server communication, as well as crafting gameplay features that empower online gameplay experiences, end quote. In fact, the job listing specifically mentions a, quote, spectacular multiplayer game, end quote, which heavily implies that this will be a primarily multiplayer game rather than just a multiplayer mode attached to another title, end quote. That is Exhibit B, and I take those exhibits and I use them to make the argument that the next Ghost of Tsushima game or games, well, let me say this. I'll just focus on Legends, right? Ghost of Tsushima Legends 2, whatever that's going to be, is going to launch standalone and be its own experience. That's my case, Your Honor. Greg, the bailiff, what do you have to say towards that?
You think Legends 2 is going to launch standalone?
Yeah.
At launch of the actual game. You think? I don't think
it's going to be day and date with like whatever the single player Ghost of Tsushima is, but I think they will be separate entities like for now on, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you think when Ghost 2 comes, there'll be a Legends 2, but it won't be included? They'll be
Yes.
separate at the point.
Yes.
No way. What?
Really?
It's not a no way thing. I think you're on the right track. I thought the case was going to be, is Sucker Punch moving to make Ghost's multiplayer like self-sustaining or make it its own thing? And I would say, yeah, that's more likely. Where I think, we start getting into what Legends 2 would be. I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see that. You figure, for how long has I was going to say PlayStation, but you can even localize it to Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch been trying to keep its audience engaged with its games, right? And we talk about, Infamous Festival of Blood. Here's a single player thing, similar now to this Iki Island stuff we're getting. You talk about the fact that they were doing the user generated content and challenges before a lot of people in general, but especially in terms of PlayStation consoles, where it was, craft your own infamous challenges, make your own infamous missions, share them in game that way on the PSN and stuff. They've been trying for a long time to do this. And you saw with Legends a great way of, cool, Ghost has been out for a while, and surprise, here's this really engaging multiplayer that you got obsessed with, Blessing. And then on top of you getting obsessed with it, it was dropped, and guess what? The raid is coming weeks later. Like, there's a reason for you to stick around with this longer than maybe you normally would for another thing. To get here now and have them say, cool, more content with this special edition, right? You're getting this brand new mode over here in terms of Rivals. You're getting this gear mastery system, and you're getting a standalone version. That makes me think that in 3 months, 4 months, they're gonna say, hey, also probably actually in the beginning of the new year, hey, you know what? Because of this success, because of everyone we saw jump in, we had these crazy player totals. We've seen this many people buy the standalone version. We're continuing to do more. Even here, right? We're adding a new piece of content each week from September 10th through October 1st. What does that mean? What will that net out to? Is it just going to be cosmetics and stuff like that? Who knows? But it'll be there, and it's giving you, a new hat, a new reason to jump on and do it. And I think they're looking at that and seeing that success. And I bet they're spinning up a team that is, or if they haven't already spun up a team, even though they're hiring for it right now, they're trying to be like, what can we do to fill in this 3 years, 4 years till Ghost 2? Like, keep dropping stuff into Legends, keep having things go there, and not think of it so much as Legends 2. Think is it more like a Fortnite, more like a, hey, cool, there's more content coming to Ghost that you can go play, you can go be a part of.
Yeah, I would love that. Like, I think either way, right? Like, the argument is there that Legends is going to stick around. Like, it's here to stay.
Oh yeah.
And I love the fact that, one, they're spinning it out into.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Play my role of like.
Thank you, Your Honor.
But I love the fact that they're spinning out into something standalone, because that was the biggest barrier for people actually jumping into Legends. I feel like them dropping it as a mode for Ghost of Tsushima characterized it for so many people as, oh, this is just additional content, and I played the single player and I'm done with it. It's probably just gonna be another multiplayer mode, like they put in the single player games all the time that aren't as interesting. And the fact that Ghost of Tsushima Legends was as deep as it was, as substantial, and you could put in as many hours, and it had a raid, and it had all these different things, and it had a gear system they can upgrade over time. That Ghost of Tsushima Legends is a very, very impressive gear / loot game for what it is. And them releasing a standalone, I think, one, is going to get a few more people in it, but I think it's going to help set up Ghost of Tsushima Legends as its own thing. And yeah, like, whether it is what you're talking about, Greg, which is, yeah, like, them not being done with Legends, them coming back early next year or in the near future and being like, cool, and we have another drop. Okay, here's raid number 2. Here's us raising the level cap. Here's some brand new gear. Whether it is that, or whether it is them gearing up for, we want to build expectation for our audience to understand that this is now its own bigger thing that has a life of its own, separate from core Ghost of Tsushima. That way, when we come back around the next time and do more Legends, it is something, I did say the D word.
Order.
It is order in the court. It is something that people understand the second time around and go, oh, Legends, all right, that's a cool multiplayer thing that grew over time and that people actually really loved. I'm going to pay attention to this more deeply this time, because last time I didn't give a fuck about it because it was just another thing. But now I'm like, oh shit, I should pay attention to this.
I feel like it could be like the, ¿Por qué no los dos, right? Like, why not both? What if Ghost 2, it's like, if you buy Ghost 2 later on when we drop our multiplayer update, but they actually drop it, unlike other people who didn't make their multiplayer part, it's fun. Like, when they drop it, you get it for free. It's like a free downloadable content. It could be who's to say? You said it, not me. But no, but in all seriousness, it could be like they drop Ghost 2 and it's like, okay, you'll get the free update when it comes out with like Legends 2 or whatever they're going to call it, or you have the option to buy it standalone, because I think either way it'd be positive ROI for them, where the people who only care about Legends and they only bought Legends and they have no interest in any of the other stuff for some reason, or they didn't like the main stuff and they're all in on Legends, they can just buy Legends 2 standalone. But the people who maybe played Legends 2 and said, oh, now I'm interested in the Ghost universe. Okay, great. If I buy Ghost 2 later on when they drop Legends 2, I'll get that downloaded. Kind of like, we see a lot of games have those like additional multiplayer content, like Resident Evil. That multiplayer is still not out yet for Village, right? The not multiplayer, but it's like
I couldn't tell you.
RE-verse, right? RE-verse didn't end up dropping, or it dropped late if it did drop. I don't think it dropped because no one talked about it.
Was that just
they delayed it at the launch, but I thought they delayed it to July, but I don't remember hearing anybody talk about it.
That's the thing. If someone can look up what's up with RE-verse.
I right now my prediction is that it's out. I could have sworn.
Say it's not out.
I'm going to say there's no way that it's out.
I would have saw people doing stupid stuff on the internet.
Engadget's K. Holt writes, Resident Evil Reverse gets a last-minute delay to 2022.
No.
This was in July 15th.
See, a lot of people can't make this an extra game. They're like,
at this point, it's almost a surprise when a game slated for 2021 isn't delayed. The latest title that slipped to 2022 is Resident Evil Reverse, the upcoming multiplayer take on the horror franchise. What stands out about this delay, however, is that Capcom is putting the release date on ice a week or two before the game was supposed to drop. The previously announced July 2021 launch of Resident Evil Reverse is being moved to 2022 so that the team can continue to work on deliver a smooth gameplay experience. They wrote in a tweet, we'll share updated launch details later this time. It must have been the beta I'm thinking of or whatever.
Yeah, because they did have that drop, which maybe they found some things in that need more polishing or something. But
yeah, in
that kind of style, except, with a much cleaner cadence, because obviously I'm sure it's not their ideal to have all these delays. Something clearly went wrong, or they didn't like plan it out correctly, or more things came up. But I think having that way you have all your bases covered, where you can make that additional money from the people that just want Legends by itself, but also maybe get more people into the Ghost franchise and kind of have both of them service like the other pillar of the two. Or I could see depending on if they want to like go for the more money route, but people might be mad, is like you get Legends for, let's say Legends is $20 again, Legends 2. If you buy like the Ultimate Edition or something of Ghost 2, that's like maybe $10 more than like the base one, you basically get like Legends at a discount essentially. So it's like, oh, you can say, if you want both experiences, you save money by getting like an Ultimate Edition or something like that, and you throw in some PlayStation avatars or something. So those are kind of the ways that I see them shaking out, kind of a mix of both of y'all.
Here's my wish. And I feel like this is not if I had one wish, if I was Ray J, this would be my one wish. I think it could be cool for Legends to be a free to play game that did come out somewhere like around the time of Ghost of Tsushima. Because like when we look at these types of games, the multiplayer live service games as a service, you want those games to have player base. You want to get as many people in those games as possible. And I can see a case for Legends working well with a battle pass system. And I don't know if PlayStation first party has tried out a battle pass system in any of their games. I don't recall any first party game having a battle pass, but I think Legends could be a good candidate for that. I think you look at Fortnite, you look at pretty much any other game that is a free to play game with a battle pass, and how the numbers for those games are like enormous. You look at something like Apex Legends, right, which had 50 million players over 50 million active players over the years. You look at that, and then you look at Ghost of Tsushima, and you look at Legends, and go, what if we could get a really high player number for this game, and then that leads to way more people buying the core $60, $70 Ghost of Tsushima 2 game because you built in this audience. Like I think there's something there in terms of that, and then that also allows Sucker Punch to expand and do both things at the same time, because again, both of these games between Legends and Ghost of Tsushima single player are both bangers. Like those are both really good games on their own.
I really think next week when this game ships, right? Legends, the new content for Legends comes out later, right? But it's obviously coming with the director's cut. When the director's cut launches and this game comes out, like I really think, Bless, you're going to see a huge spike in Legends, where I do think it's going to be a thing that for a lot of people, they played Ghost, enjoyed it, moved on to the next thing, and then Legends dropped, and they're like, oh, I heard about it, but it's not like my jam kind of thing. Whereas now you're coming back, hopefully, if you're a single player fan, for the new island, right? And then on top of that, you're gonna have what has it been? Nearly a year of you talking about how much you enjoyed Legends, the in general internet talking about how much great this was, how much content there was. Now you have it all in quotes from what's come before, but you're going to be getting all these promises of new stuff. Like I think Legends is about to have a moment where people will be playing. I'm ready. Like we keep joking around about it, but I'm totally down when we get it to go through and play with you and get, see if I want to click with it more and play more with it. If it's hitting at that time where I actually have time to play it. Like, yeah, I want to see what this is about. And I think you're going to see a lot of people who want to as well. And then again,
I gotta learn how to parry before we get to that.
Come on, Janet. You know what
so
I mean?
hard. It's like, look at the feet. I'm trying, but
God damn it, I'm trying.
Don't worry. They're adding in a lock on with this new one. And so you won't have any more issues.
But I think it's going to be,
you'd be surprised. You're ready to be disappointed.
Janet, can you tell me what's up with the MLB and the Field of Dreams?
Yeah, MLB Field of Dreams, man. Okay, so on the PlayStation blog, they mentioned that they are making Field of Dreams playable in MLB The Show. So essentially, this is what the post reads as. The Field of Dreams Stadium will be added to MLB The Show on Tuesday, August 10th in a free content update for all PlayStation 4 and 5 consoles. It will also have an entire week of live content dedicated to Field of Dreams, which I don't know what that's going to mean, but I'm interested in it. And for those who don't, I mentioned this before we started recording, like Field of Dreams, and Blessing's like, I don't know what that means. It's a feel-good old movie. It's from 1989. It was based on a novel that was confirmed earlier in KFGD because I covered this in KFGD too. And it's just about like a guy who hears a voice and, he is compelled to make this baseball field where this cornfield was. And there's other stuff tied to like family and history and like the supernatural.
Plus, you've definitely heard at some point if you build it, they will come. Like it's from Field of Dreams.
Everyone says that though, I feel like. I don't think that started at Field of Dreams. I feel like they always said
1,000% started with Field of Dreams.
Yeah, that was Field of Dreams.
I feel like that people have said that before Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come.
No.
I feel like people have. I feel like that's like an old who doesn't.
They will come.
Also, though, if you watch Time Met Your Mother, Field of Dreams is the movie that Robin thinks is bad. Robin Scherbatsky in like season 2. She's like, Field of Dreams. Like once is your go-to bad movie is Field of Dreams. It's about ghost baseball players. I think it's stupid. But anyway, I think this is pretty cool because it's like a, pop culture, like integrated with like the sport itself reference thrown in.
It is in fact from Field of Dreams.
I'm going to do further research.
There is no history of like that being a
further
thing.
Further research.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it was a movement that swept the country.
It's like in Star Wars when they said that's no moon. Like everybody knows that quote from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Blessing. Everybody knows that quote.
Everybody knows that quote from Star Wars.
No one's just going, that's no moon all the time. I don't know.
I'll speak for yourself. I say it every other day. Whenever I look in the sky, I see the sun.
Why are you always looking to the sky? With all the light pollution, there's no way you're seeing the moon that often.
It's a joke on KFGD. Anyway, I did not realize that's no moon was a quote from Star Wars.
Fucking.
Well, don't you have Star Wars beef though too, Blessing? wasn't that a thing?
Not beef. I just don't care about Star Wars that much.
Well, it's like it didn't affect you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, this sounds
cool. In the live chat, you got Slacks going. He's blowing the whole fucking picture, like how it ends. Like, shut up! That's not the quote. The quote. They changed the quote to that, Slacks. God, children. God.
But also, this makes me want like more integrations like this. Like, I mean, we see like other sim type games like bring in goofy stuff or other like IPs. Like, I want Ted Lasso, FIFA, the crossover.
Yes, sure. Yes. Okay. Give it to me. That's what I'm talking about.
I thought you were saying you wanted more like baseball, MLB. I'm like, what? So what else is there? There's the natural. There's the natural. I guess Major League you could do like all these old baseball movies we could put
Adam Sandler.
Was it something in the Angels in the Outfield got mentioned?
Sure,
earlier.
Lloyd,
that could be. Yeah. There's endless ghost baseball lore.
Let me play against the Goon Squad in NBA 2K22.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, that'd be good. That would be really good. But yeah, I want more stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's fun for like if you play a game like this, you're always playing it because it's like even if there's not extra content, you just live in the game for the year until the next one comes out. So it's like, all right, I was already there. It's the best. Like, it's one of the best content drops because the player base is already so committed.
Yeah, I think that's why it's an interesting touchstone in terms of
hold on.
even if you.
I have an important update, Greg. I'm sorry.
Barrett, what's the update?
If you build it, they will come is actually from the book of Genesis, where Noah is told by God to
Oh,
build the
shit.
ark. And then
Boom,
all the animals and
Catholicism.
people will
Speak on
come.
it.
Wow.
Yeah, we
Nobody
fucked up.
I
remembers
told
it from
y'all.
the
I told
Bible.
y'all.
Again,
all
No
y'all
one
was trying to
remembers it
Greg's
from
gonna
the
fucking
fucking
Screenshot the
which
chat.
one
I'm
is
sure
more
people are like,
popular, the Bible or
just like
Field
under
of Dreams?
30.
I'm just saying. I think Field of Dreams popularized it in the
That
modern
could be
era.
true.
The Bible said this, Quan. You want to tell me the Field of Dreams popularized that?
100%.
Absolutely in modern.
No one was
okay,
in-
Y'all made
no
it
one
hacks
was
off.
there.
All these heathens on this podcast.
Do you know how many
I
people
will
have read the
admit-
book of Genesis?
I will admit, like,
Literally
no, okay,
out
like
here
we
doing
were
the
wrong.
work
It
of the
didn't
Lord.
originate from this movie, but I will be damned.
Who made it popular? Yeah, there's a bunch of shit
definitely
in the fucking
popularized
Bible that
it
isn't
in
popular.
modern.
God made it
cultural
popular.
media. Okay.
You can't.
Boom.
You Janet, I'm on your
I
side.
feel so. This is the best win I've had in like a really long. A biblical win.
You can't.
Boom. Catholicism,
Idiom
my
origins.
English
If you
degree,
build it,
it's
they will
all
come. Since
coming
the
together.
1990s.
It's
They're
all
not
coming
quoting the
together.
fucking Bible.
This is like when
You can't take
someone
a quote
tried to
that
tell me.
originated from Genesis.
This
and
is
say
like when
this
someone
movie
tried to
Field of
tell me
Dreams
that,
made it
like,
popular.
I didn't know that Rick Astley song from Regular Life that I had to know from Rickrolling. I'm like, no, I heard that song before like the internet was a thing. I've been listening to that song for ages.
Greggy, I
Boom.
need you to
Okay,
put up a
thank
poll on
you.
Twitter. What do you know this quote from? And then you do the quote. If you build it, they will come. And then the two options are Field of Dreams, and then option 2, the Bible.
Okay.
The
You know,
Bible.
it's
you.
funny because I was just having like a conversation with Maggie about like the Bible and like the importance of it and how it like cuts across like references and things and is like a cultural touchstone in a lot of ways. I'm like, yeah, but you know, I don't think it's like that deep to learn. Like I know it from being raised Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore. But I'm like, I don't, you know, you're not really missing like that much. Apparently you are, because y'all are about to drag me over this Field of Dreams nonsense. Boom.
The Bible did not make it popular. Period. End of story. I was alive and we were not before 1989 in
flipping.
Catholic
Yo,
school
this
being
is a
like,
fake Bible
everybody
reader
remembers the
after-
famous God
Greg's out
quote,
here
if you
a
build it, they will
fucking
come. All right,
poser.
when he was talking to the fucking zebras, trying to get the goddamn zebras and sloths
Yeah,
on the
man.
ark.
Y'all want to come through on
It's one of the
Christmas, but
most
y'all ain't
popular
got the
stories
quotes.
from the Bible.
Y'all ain't got the quotes. Also, yeah, it is one of the most popular stories. That's like a classic. Yeah.
It's
All right,
like-
chat, we
yeah,
get it. It's
that and then
he will
Jesus
come,
being born.
whatever.
It's one of the most popular stories, but when we asked the quote, no one knew. You two didn't, or
I
mainly
knew
Busted.
it was from. I knew it wasn't from Field of Dreams. I knew it was older than that. No, it's from Field of Dreams. Boom. It don't get old. Well,
right,
it's
here's the
kind
quote-
of
here's
old
the
in the
poll I'm
Bible. It
putting
don't
it up.
matter. It's,
Okay.
Where do you know the quote, if you build it, they will come from? Field of Dreams, the Bible. I'm tweeting it out.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Greggy.
man,
And
y'all
for
like,
chat,
oh, you gotta
for
play on
chat,
chat.
for clarification.
I'm out here reading the Bible. Y'all don't
For
even
clarification, if you build it, he will come is from Field of Dreams. Yes. If you build it, they will come, which is what people quote, is actually specifically the quote from the Bible. So, chat.
If you hear him
Calm
whisper
down.
it, it's definitely they're fucking doing the Field of Dreams thing.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. The God wasn't fucking whispering to Noah.
It was also
He's
like,
like, yo,
an
make this
additional. It was like
40
a
cubic thing.
an
God speaks to people in
otherworldly
a lot of different
moment
ways,
too.
Greg.
It was like cutting across our known reality. Ain't nothing more biblical or like otherworldly than that. Like it's all interconnected. But anyway,
Sylvester the Slayer is. I'm just gonna say the fucking thing. We're spoiling Field of Dreams, everybody. This is your fucking chance. All right, you had what?
watch out, blessing.
30,
It's so,
40
it's so
years
Oh,
to
God,
watch
I was
it,
gonna
right?
watch this movie tomorrow.
Sylvester the Slayer says the correct line is if you build it, he will come. It's not they. The very final fucking moment, it's he about his dead dad. Yeah, not the entire way. If you
Nice.
build it, they will come is what it is. And then remember at the very end, Ray Liotta goes, or no, the other guy. No, Ray Liotta? Yeah, Ray Liotta goes, if you build it, he will come. And Kevin Costner looks into the thing and his fucking dead dad comes out of the cornfield as a ball player. All right?
And they play catch one last time.
They
Like,
do,
even when he was
Janet?
young enough to matter.
There's a lot
But yeah.
going on in that movie. Kid almost chokes on a hot dog. I remember that. That was terrifying as somebody who ate a lot of hot
The
dogs.
point
It still does.
is, MLB The Show's getting an update, and I won. So,
Back to the PlayStation part. of it.
timestamp it.
Greg, tell us about the PlayStation indie drop.
One of the things that happened this week that I thought was interesting is PlayStation did one of those bits where they put up on the blog like, hey, we're going to announce a bunch of PlayStation indie initiative things today. And everybody's like, oh, that's cool. And so just to call out if you didn't do it, they had a bunch of great stuff up about Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals, coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. Axiom Verge 2 got a new gameplay trailer. They said, embark on a bewitching crafting adventure set in the island of mystical fables and Witchwood, brewing for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 this year. 36 years later, Platinum Games is releasing a sequel to the venerated underrated top-down arcade shooters, Moon Cresta and Terra Cresta, Soul Cresta 2022. Then this was one, A Short Hike was announced to be coming to PlayStation 4 later this year. And then on top of that, Carry On is also coming to PlayStation 4 later this year. Of course, Short Hike and Carry On, two games that people had loved since then. Short Hike being like, the PC Animal Crossing. So many people were talking about that in terms of a chill game. Carry On being the Devolver Digital. You're a giant blob that just eats everything and blows everything up. And then finally, of course, they had more about Hades, which of course is out PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 very, very soon.
Yeah, this week.
But yeah, just a cool thing, of course, doubling down on what, we are always talking about PlayStation trying to do more for indies, or what they're doing over there. Obviously, I think some of the bigger announcements here are being Carry On, A Short Hike, being, hey, these games that have been released on other platforms are finally coming here. That's always cool. Oxenfree 2, I know so many people love Oxenfree. Having more information about that's great. Axiom Verge, of course, Tom Happ's game, friend of the show, friend of Kind of Funny. Just a lot of cool stuff they had up over there. I just want to make sure
it's a real heavy hitter list, and I do want to say A Short Hike is legitimately one of the best games I've ever played in my life. I'm working on a top 100 games list, like a personal one that I'll keep updating like until I die, I guess. And that's on there. Like, it's so fantastic. It's a little bit, I think, more in common with Zelda in a way than Animal Crossing, just in terms of secrets and like exploration and stuff. Sure. It's a pretty short experience, and it constantly like surprised me. And the whole premise is going up this hill for a short hike, which is a little longer than I thought it would be, but that's basically the idea. And you're getting like different like abilities to try to get up the different parts, but then you also like meet other characters, and there's like there are sim elements though, like for the Animal Crossing comparison, like fishing, and you can talk to characters, and there's mini games. But it's so delightful and well written, and like it just is really constructed in a way that makes you want to explore all of it. Like, I'm not sure if there's a confirmed like platinum or not for it, but I feel like this would be a great game to 100% either way. And then same thing with Oxenfree too. Like, obviously that's the sequel, but like the original game is one of my favorite games like ever. It's so well written. From like, usually teenage writing is very cringe and like a little Life is Strange-ish, even though I like Life is Strange. But this is it's so authentic and genuine and like shocking and confusing. Like, this is just such a stacked lineup.
Yeah, I want to co-sign Short Hike as well. I love that Greg mentions Animal Crossing and Janet mentions Zelda, because as I was playing the game, my takeaway was more Mario. Like, it felt like a really good, well-constructed
it's everything
Mario level. Yeah, I mean,
what's your favorite game? A Short Hike is that?
No,
yeah, exactly.
Low key. And if you liked too, sorry to cut you off, but if you liked freaking Chicory, I think I saw a lot of A Short Hike in Chicory and vice versa. So I think those kind of are in that same realm of surprise.
Yeah, it's a game too that you can play all in one sitting. It's it's literally called A Short Hike. It's a very short game, but it has a lot of Nintendo energy there in terms of how it builds, the level design of it. It is a very concise game that has, I think, some really cool moments to it. And when I compare it to Mario, I mean that in the way that like there is a thing you're collecting all throughout this level, and the way that what you collect kind of builds onto your ability, so you can travel more and go further, I think is really well done. And honestly, as I was playing it, I was like, man, I wish Nintendo would make a 3D Mario level that was like this, where I am just like, enhancing just one ability over a long period of time till I 100% this level. Short Hike is kind of that for me, and so really dig that game. Couldn't recommend it enough. And then also, I do want to shout out Carrion as well. That game describes itself as a reverse horror experience, and I always find that so entertaining. But it's kind of a power fantasy in the way that it's a Metroidvania where you're playing as the monster. I know so many people already know about Carrion, but if you haven't checked it out yet and you have any interest in it, and you have the craving to want to just take out some enemies with no effort whatsoever, just straight up stomp on fools, Carrion lets you do that. Like, you play as a blob that basically murders everything, and so really fun game. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving Short Hike another chance. That's so many games I keep on my systems, right? Just for when I'm in that mood. And when I had started A Short Hike, I think on PC actually, it was one of those things of like, charming, cute. I see what it's doing, but I wasn't in the mood to sit there and play a couple hours of it. Like, I played like whatever an hour was, I got my head wrapped around it, and then moved on to something else. I'm excited to be able to hopefully platinum it, put a platinum trophy in it. Don't screw this up. We'll talk about a heartwarming game in a little bit on what you've been playing that needs a goddamn platinum, but I'll get out of it. Don't worry about it for now.
Let's keep talking about some cool games. With PlayStation picks, of course, this is where we highlight a few of the cool looking games coming to PSN this week. Starting with the big hitters on Godfall, or on PS4, you're getting Godfall Tuesday, August 10th, and then Hades is coming to PS5 and PS4 on Friday, August 13th. And then we have a whole slate of PlayStation picks for the picks themselves. I actually had to pare down this list because I had close to like 9 games when I was working.
Hold on. Before you do that,
mm-hmm.
I want to double back and have you talk about Godfall. I want to talk about Hades. But I also want to talk about patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames to be part of the show, to watch us record the show live, to get the show with the exclusive post show we do. But most importantly for right now, it's where you could go to get the show ad-free. But you didn't go there, Jack. So here's a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser, specifically the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 2 earbuds, which are the best earbuds I have ever owned. And you guys know me, I love sound quality, I love audio, I love all that stuff. And man, I truly love the experience. Never had better wireless earbuds before. While other companies focused on phones or tablets, Sennheiser has put sound first, and it's paying off for them. With their free smart control app, you can adjust the sound to your personal preference with all the EQ. The built-in equalizer makes it super easy. There's noise cancellation. Now you can switch off your surroundings and dive into that impactful song or important episode with the new active noise cancellation feature. Right now, for the first 100 listeners who go to Sennheiser.com/podcast and use promo code KFGames, you'll receive 15% off the Momentum True Wireless 2 earbuds or any of their amazing headphones. That's 15% off when you go to SENNHEISER.com/podcast and use our promo code KFGames. Go do it. Blessing's been loving them too. They're fantastic earbuds. Next up, shout out to Honey. We all shop online and we've all seen that promo code field taunt us at checkout. But thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey's the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. I have saved literally thousands of dollars just by having Honey. It's one of the best things ever, and it's totally free and so easy to use. You just wait a few seconds as Honey searches for coupons that it can find for the site. It applies the best ones it can get you, and then you're saving money. I've saved money on Hue lights. I recently saved money on some bomber jackets. Nobody's surprised. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free, installs in just a few seconds. By getting it, you're doing yourself a solid and supporting this show. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/kinda. That's joinhoney.com/kinda. And finally, shout out to Upstart. If you're carrying a credit balance month after month, it can feel like you're in a never-ending cycle of debt. Upstart can help you make that final payment so you can get ahead. Upstart's the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan, all online. One of my really good friends did this, was able to consolidate all of his loans, and it just made it easier for him to wrap his head around, and now he's debt-free. Upstart knows that you're more than just your credit score and is expanding access to affordable credit. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan, which is really, really awesome. You can find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use the URL to support the show. Let us know that we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny.
Let's give a shout out to Barrett, who reminded me on Slack about that. And this is after the ad, to the way. And a shout out to Blessing, because his transition game into PlayStation picks was incredibly smooth, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You wanted me to talk about Godfall?
You put it on here, big hitters, right? And I think Godfall, of course, if people remember that, we had talked about at launch of the PlayStation 5. You tried it, you enjoyed the combat of it, and then I did too, but I bounced off, and you stayed a little bit longer than it bounced off as well. And then since then, it's over on the Godfall YouTube channel and their Twitter and stuff. You and I hosted a video with one of the devs who's talking about it. So it's, we did have sponsored content with him. Take it with a grain of salt, whatever we say about it now. But you would come back since launch, played a bunch of it, and then there's a big update coming, right?
Yeah, so there's a big update coming with Godfall that it's supposed to add in like a whole new other area, because right now there are 3 main big areas that house a lot of the different missions that you can go on. So adding a new area along with new missions to go on and new unlockables, new loot, and all that stuff. But yeah, Godfall was a game that toward launch, I remember me and Andy were really looking forward to, and then at launch I played quite a bit of it. And I was very lukewarm on it. Like, my main thing was that the story and content just wasn't there for me. But I liked the combat. I loved how beautiful it looked. I liked the style of it. And there was so much of it that I dug, but so much of it where I was like, man, mainly the content. You know, it was kind of that Anthem situation where I heard so many people go into playing Anthem and like it for the aesthetic, like it for X, Y, and Z thing, but it just not having the content to really move it forward. And I very much felt the same way about Godfall. And so overall, I was like, yeah, this isn't sticking with me as much as I wanted to. And then for the sponsored thing that we did with Godfall earlier, or like way after launch, I went back into Godfall just to play it through and finish it, just because I was like, oh yeah, you know, like I dug this enough, let me stick through it and play it just to see what else is there. And I actually found myself getting into it more than I expected when I was playing through it. Like I do dig the combat of the game a lot. I dig how many different systems are in there in terms of you can go in there and hack and slash, but likely you'll die. But there are things like I don't know the exact name for it, but if you attack with your heavy attack, there's kind of almost like a stagger kind of meter that builds up to where if you hit enough with your heavy attack and then hit with your light attack, it'll then take a chunk of damage out that that meter has filled up in the enemy's health bar. And I found that very satisfying because then the enemies do like this cool like turn to stone effect and then they explode, which I'm all about. Like the combat has a good feel to it in that way. And then like so many of the missions are simple in a way that I like, in a way that they're like, you know, go fight this boss or go hunt down this enemy. So many of them are just straight up hunt missions where you go and hunt down certain enemies in the map. And you know, those are pretty chill because you kind of get into the flow of running into the same bosses over and over. And you know, kind of it's that loot grind that you get in so many other loot games that are distilled down to the combat of Godfall, which is very much hack and slash, kind of soulsy, but kind of more actiony than that. Getting into that loop, I found at the time to be pretty fun. Like it was like a perfect podcast experience for me where I put on a podcast, went to that loop, hack and slash through bosses, and just did that over and over again until I hit the end. I had a good enough time in my time going back to Godfall that I think I am going to boot it up for the update just to see what it's about.
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
For sure.
And then Hades, I mean, what's left to say about Hades? Everybody loves Hades. Game of the year for so many different people finally coming to PlayStation.
Exactly.
Also, here, Barrett's showing you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I've put up a lot of polls in my day. Where do you know the quote, if you build it, they will come from? 91.1% say Field of Dreams. 8.9 are lying and say the Bible.
I mean, that's your audience. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add.
I will let you know, I've texted Jared Petty, who has COVID. And if he is not recuperating from COVID, we will get the former preacher on here who has a sense and he will tell you where people know it from.
Everybody knows the PlayStation audience.
I didn't say it was the question. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Why do I feel like I'm acting like I'm Greg? I hate that I'm fusing into both of you. The question was not where do most people know it from. The question is where is it from? That was the question. I'm like it's from earlier.
That's what the question was from. And Greg and I think we can both admit that we were initially wrong of where it was originally from. Right, Greg?
I will say that.
No. Okay, then shut up. And then after that moment, the conversation then changed to what popularized it. And y'all were like, nah, dude, it's the Bible.
It's those Greg tactics. Greg knows how to change the conversation in his favor. Because it did start off as, where did this originate? And the answer was God himself.
And we were
this fucking revisionist history on this podcast.
Every word is in the Bible. Every word is in the Bible. Are we going to sit here and debate who invented Leviticus? Oh, well, the Bible did.
I see you out here tossing out these logical fallacies, and I'm not going to let them just fly. I did not drop 40K plus on a useless degree to have these tools used on me.
Whatever. Let's get into the PlayStation picks. Let's start off with Button City. It's okay. Button City is coming to PS5 on Monday, August 9th. I guess that's today. That's the time we're recording this. Yeah. Yesterday is the time this comes out. Is it Tuesday?
Not today. It's the 9th.
Oh, shoot. I thought it comes out tomorrow, though.
I think I'll double check.
Yeah, on the website I went to for the date, it said August 9th, but that could be an error.
Confirmed.
August 10th. It's coming out Tuesday, August 10th for PS5. Button City is a colorful, low-poly narrative adventure game about a fox and his friends banding together to save their local arcade. Explore a diorama world, play exciting arcade games, complete quirky quests, and meet cute animal friends. Now, if I'm not mistaken, both of you have played quite a bit of Button City.
Yes.
How much have you played, Janet? Because I would not qualify myself as quite a bit. I have played, but I'd say
I beat it. It's about a 5-hour experience. I reviewed it for my individual outlet, Pentapixels. And I liked it. I liked it overall. I do think it has some flaws. My biggest issue with it is just that you move really slow through the world. Like your character walks really slow. And occasionally the quest lines, you start to notice, hey, these two like side quests are like the same side quest, but with like slightly different things. But I did enjoy the arcade games within the game. They have like 3 arcade games, a driving one, a rhythm one, and then the main one, GoBots, which is kind of like a, baby's first MOBA in a way. Like you just get an item and then throw it into a smoothie, basically. The game walks you through it. So I like those elements. I think the art direction is adorable, and I think the story is like pretty solid, especially some of the side stuff. Like I think it's written well. So overall, I recommend it with those asterisks attached to it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 for good. So just a little bit above what 2 would have been okay, and then 1 is bad. So yeah, I think it's solid, and if you like adventure cute Sims, I think it is worth checking out.
Yeah, for me, obviously it's adorable. I do like the writing a lot in it. It was the thing, though. I feel like I had put enough time into it for me to know a bit more where we were going, and I don't like the MOBA GoBots mini game or whatever. So the fact that early on that is so much of what you're playing, like get your GoBot, go back in there, go up against the other team. Like not enjoying that, I was like, I don't know if there's enough to pull me through this. And I'm with you, of course. It's like, okay, cool. Like, it's a bit slow to move around. I enjoy the fact that, like their map system's interesting. They talked, Blessing's description talked about it as a diorama setup, which is, and I guess we haven't really described what the actual gameplay is, right? You're a fox, you're walking around, this isometric third person kind of thing, interacting with people, talking to people, playing these different arcade games. It is very much, you're playing a story though. And so rather than have the overworld, it is that, you hit circle and then go between these different levels of what game map you want to be on. You go there and you experience it, you talk to people and do it. And so I like the idea of, a new kid in town coming through to play these games. You find a new friend group, start being friends with them. And then of course, you get into this, how are you going to save the arcade business kind of thing. Janet, my question for you would be, does it ever open up in terms of, is there choice or is it just a narrative? They're telling you their narrative.
It's just the narrative they're telling. Like I think the player autonomy comes in, you picking up extra quest lines.
Sure.
I know from looking at the trailer, even though I played through it and I did some side stuff, but there was a scene in there that like I'd never experience. And I was like, oh, I wonder what like would have caused that to happen. So that's the closest thing to player autonomy there is. I will say like, it's a really well thought out game, and that there's like a lot of in-depth systems. Like I think it's cool they have like these buffs and debuffs and like different items, but I think the weakest parts of those are just the way that like some of them are a little bit underexplored. Like I would have liked to see the stuff like fleshed out a little bit more. Like there's different game modes you can unlock in the arcade games, but they only give you like that one out the gate. So like I didn't personally feel compelled to unlock more. So yeah, it kind of depends on like whether or not which is kind of every game, but like the stuff it's presenting is interesting to you. Like I liked GoBots, you didn't. If you didn't like GoBots, you might not like the game. But like I think for me, I did like the game and like its construction, but I can totally see someone being like, oh, these mini games are just like kind of weak, and I'm like, oh, I thought they were pretty good, I thought they were enjoyable. So it just kind of depends on where you end up landing on that. I would say, check out trailers, check out reviews. My review's up. I did ultimately, it seems like I liked it a little more than you, but I went into the things that I also like didn't like about it. So yeah, I think if you like this genre, you should at least check out what's going on and what people have to say about it. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think, we'll get to it in a little bit when we get to what you've been playing, but I was looking for something that was that heartwarming, charming. I wanted to just get lost in wholesome, right? Or like the wholesome direct that Button City, I think, was a part of, right? Like it is that I found it in a different game for different reasons. And yeah, we'll get to it. But I could see where on a different day, on a different thing, this could be that. What was that?
I bet I know what game that was, because it might have been the same game that I was playing.
Oh,
yeah, so
what a tease. All right, well, get through the rest of the games.
Yeah, so next up we got Black Book coming to PS4 on Tuesday, August 10th. Black Book is a dark RPG adventure based on Slavic myths in which you play as a young sorceress, fight evil forces in card-based battles, and explore the world where humans live alongside mythical creatures. This one I added on mainly because as I went through the trailer, one, I like the description of it, but the trailer I think shows a really cool art style of the game. It has kind of a hand-drawn, colorful style to it with a lot of I say colorful, but it ranges from being colorful and bright to then also being pretty dark and kind of scary in terms of some of the art there. And so I really like how this looks, and looks like an interesting game.
It does.
That's what I'll say about it. We also got Faraday Protocol coming to PS4 Thursday, August 12th. Endothermic organic hydration complete. Coordinates reached. As you deploy from your spaceship, you find yourself in a mysterious place. Your name is Rog Zekon from planet Kunor. Your motto: explore, exploit, expose. Solve complicated puzzles and discover the hidden secrets of Opus. This is one that also looks pretty cool. If this is the one yes, it is the one I'm thinking of. This is the first-person puzzle game. I can tell until like we reach a certain point in the trailer.
Sure.
It's a first-person puzzle game that reminds me of something that is kind of like a Portal or a Cube or a Manifold Garden. It's that kind of game. They do give you a gun which you can shoot things with and solve puzzles that way. And yeah, like if that's your jam, this looks like it's gonna be kind of like that. I tried to see if I could like pick up a code for it. I couldn't find a good enough email to reach out for it, but I might actually check this one out this week because it looks like a me game.
That looks like a
that
blessing
kind of game.
100.
Yeah. And so that looks cool. Then we also got Foreclosed coming to PS4 and PS5 Thursday, August 12th. Foreclosed is a narrative-driven action adventure set in a cyberpunk world filled with action, suspense, and experimental augmentations. Follow the story of Evan Kapnos in this sleek comic book-styled game as he unravels the conspiracy behind his identity foreclosure. Who is responsible and why? There's another one with a really cool looking art style. The description mentioned it having a comic book art style, but then the gameplay seems like it's going to be a mixture of action and stealth in this cyberpunk world.
That looks really cool. This art style, yeah, I didn't know what to expect out of it. I like the comic book, like sound effects being incorporated in the world as things happen.
Yeah, and also like the it has like a picture-in-picture sort of thing where as you're going through the action, your screen might minimize. And you might see other angles from other screens of things that are going on. Kind of like a
kind of like 2003 Hulk movie. You know what I'm saying, Greg?
Ang Lee's Hulk. Yeah, incredible.
That wasn't the reference I was gonna make. I was gonna say Fahrenheit, the David Cage game, but yeah, that too, the Hulk movie as well.
It's interesting watching it. Like the story sounds cool, the premise. The overall art style seems cool, but the shooting seems stiff.
Yes.
Stiff as hell, right?
Yeah. It might be one of those games where like when you when you fuse genres, sometimes like one of them speaks more strongly than like the other elements of it. So I can still see it being interesting even if that doesn't land. But I think it depends on how well that actually executes versus like what it looks like on trailer,
We also got The Plane Effect coming to PS5 Thursday, August 12th, a dystopian isometric adventure following a lonely office worker as he attempts to return home in the face of impossible odds. Experience a remarkable journey expertly brought to life with gorgeous visuals crafted and tailored by VFX experts. Barry, if you can scroll,
stunning.
Yeah, scroll a little bit forward. Like that's the thing going through this week's PlayStation picks. All of them have really cool art styles. Like, look at this.
They also do a really good job at like utilizing lighting in a way. You mentioned that like earlier game being like, oh, it's colorful, but sometimes it's like actually just dark. Like in this case, it's very monochrome, but like the lighting helps kind of give it a little bit more dimension to it.
Yeah,
reminds me of like what was it, Inside, a little bit in that sense too.
Yeah.
What was the one? Damn, there was that one I played for when we were still in the PSN list. That was like the.
Oh,
you remember this where he was an office worker and then he walked around and had a weird tap.
He has like an umbrella and stuff too, and like is he like polygonal slightly?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man, I think it was on Apple Arcade or something.
Yeah, but I can't remember what it's called. Kindoffunny.com/101 games. Is that what it was?
I wonder if we're thinking of the same game.
I 104. That would do funny.
Oh
no,
did it have like a game within a game where you just pressed a button over and over again? It was like a do nothing type app.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know that game, right? I heard it was just okay, but like,
it was just okay. That was accurate. Yeah, that checks out. But yeah.
Oh god, I know what the guy looks like too. He's kind of like slender and like tall, and like he has like one of those awkward like proportions because like everyone looks like that.
I'm digging it.
Man, what is it? They were at E3 in 2019 at the Indie Mix. I think it starts with an M. God.
As you do that, I'll do this last game. This last one is Ever Forward. Is coming to PS4 and PS5 Saturday, August 14th, a rare Saturday release date. Ever Forward is an adventure puzzle game following the story of a girl named Maya. Maya is lost in a strange world somewhere between reality and imagination. She is alone to confront her despair on a journey of discovery where she must unlock her memories and confront her fears to unravel the secrets of the world. Again, another one with a really cool art style. And
like a Greg-ass game.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. It seems like it's a Greg-ass game just from the setup, the premise being like this sad, depressing story. You know how Greg loves those in video games. You know what I mean?
Man, there's nothing I love more than sitting down and weeping openly while I try
No,
to get
hell
a
yeah.
laugh.
Have to deal with family.
You know
Like
what I
pile
mean?
it on. Pile
But
it on.
it also seemed it is also very much a puzzle game, which makes it kind of a me game as well. It seems like you're gonna be walking around doing like a lot of block puzzles. It reminds me a little bit of something like Eco mixed with a Manifold Garden, if that makes sense, because you're playing as this little child running around barefoot solving puzzles.
The girl reminds me of the something your eyes game
Nier?
where it's like no, I don't know what it was called. God, this is like the day of like freaking game names. It was
The
like you
game
play
we were
as, like
looking
a
for before was Mosaic. Mosaic. is what we were
Mosaic.
looking for.
yes. Okay, literally, I googled. I'm so embarrassed. I googled like story game black and white sad man. Yeah.
Yeah, see, this
Hell
is Mosaic,
yeah. I'm still, even though you said it was just okay, I would still play it. Like,
Oh,
screw
yeah.
it, why not? Why not?
Well, yeah, that was the thing is like I remember, I forget where it ranked on the list anymore, but yeah, it was like I didn't love it by any stretch of the imagination.
It was
but I
like
didn't hate
mid
it.
list.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? You
I
roll
miss
the
doing that
dice
list.
with these things. Well, you're
I
free
think
to
about
start
that
putting
list
shit
every
on
now and then.
anytime you want to. Do whatever you want.
Janet, when Greg leaves, like he
fuck
eventually
I
is
do?
going to, right, to take
Mhm.
care of his future child, me and you,
Sure.
we're gonna bring the list back. We're gonna play so many indie
Oh
games
hell,
that we're not
yo!
gonna like.
I'm always down to take a flyer on some stuff. Like, let's make some mistakes. Let's go.
Yeah, let's play
I'm
some
here for
some
it.
bad games.
We didn't like the list
Hell yeah.
didn't die. The idea was when we played games like the 19 we have on this thing, we would go and do it. Like, well, our whole what you've been playing section is filled with games we could go and play if we really wanted to. I didn't hold you back here, Blessing.
No, it's dead. It's dead.
We're
It
bringing it
died with
back.
the drop.
Wow.
It died with the
Damn.
PlayStation drop. Rest
Damn,
in
dude.
peace.
But you gotta play
Yeah.
Days Gone is the thing.
Stop bringing up
moving
Days Gone. They're gonna remember that I gotta play this game.
We gotta bring it back. I'll finish. I'll restart. We'll do it together.
Look, there's
When am I
nothing
gonna
going
find
on
time?
when I leave in October.
Come on,
from
Booze
there's
Man.
nothing.
Let's
Boozer, what's up, Booze
Yeah.
Man?
sneaking out. I still
These
say that. I reference that
motherfucker.
constantly.
Damn, I'm gonna slit their fucking throats. Oh, hey, Boozer, how you doing?
What
Yeah,
are-
Feel
man.
better?
What are
is
you gonna give
happening
the
right
drugs
now?
to?
This
I don't
is
know.
Days
You
Gone.
gotta
This is
decide.
Days Gone.
This is
Sorry,
Days Gone
man.
culture. Like, if you know, you know.
Days
Like, these are the
Gone
deep
culture.
Days
Jesus
cuts, man.
fucking Christ.
Looking for my wife,
Please.
worrying about my wife, warning my wife. It's a whole thing.
Please release
You don't
me
know- you
from
don't
this
understand-
You
moment.
you
don't
don't
play it,
understand our
the wife
culture.
just- you don't know what happens. You don't know what
I don't
happens.
think I want to know about Days Gone culture.
And the government, like, what's
I
going on with the
really don't,
government?
dude.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. I got these rocks. I can throw them, distract some people. Like, it's a vibe.
Rocks. Days Gone
It's
culture
a
right there,
100% a vibe.
Yeah, man. Find those nets, those freaker nets. Walking around, like, get a baseball bat, put some spikes on it.
It's time to talk about what you playing, where you been, what you've been playing. We have a whole bunch of stuff to go through today. So I want to start with the one, the only, Janet Garcia. You did it. You went and played Uncharted 4.
I didn't finish
Everyone-
it yet.
It's fine though. You played it though.
Yeah,
You've
I'm
been
playing
playing
it.
it.
I'm working through it.
Is it doing better?
It's definitely it's kind of strong because I haven't finished it, but it seems like the best of the franchise, which is not shocking because everyone says either 4 or 2. I did not end up streaming it, unfortunately, just because I'm like, that's gonna make it even harder to like get the work done of playing through it. So I'm just playing it like in my off hours, still playing with my brother, we're hanging out. Going through the whole franchise together. He is leaning on wanting to do Lost Legacy
Ooh.
just because he's like, we might as well finish it. We're this close. And then, of course, what's hilarious, and I have some things I've liked, some criticism so far. I have a whole thread on Twitter that I'll keep replying to. So if you're really like invested in like my thoughts as I go, you can just bookmark it and just keep reading it, going back to it if you're that interested. But yeah, like it's funny because I had, especially when I first started, I only played like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and I was like, man, y'all, this is the same game. Like, what's going on? And then people, of course, were like, okay, but Lost Legacy, and I'm like, y'all wild for that. But I did 2 sessions, one of a few hours, and then one of another few hours, and it's been picking up now that like the story groundwork is laid out. I've liked the sort of like Hitman-y section they had where they were like, getting cocktails and then like voting on the, like, what is it called? Bidding on that one like item and things. I love Nadine when light spoilers for Uncharted 4, when Nadine beats the fuck out of Nathan Drake. Like I was like, flip it, rewind it. Like, let's watch it again. Cause I feel like Nathan Drake's been needing to get his ass beat, ideally by a woman of color. So it's like, yeah, let's go. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's been interesting. The combination of like traversal and combat, I think, is serving itself pretty well. There's some nice little touches in the design. Like I love how when you're taking down enemies, like you're when at least for the section that you're with your brother, like your brother will come in and like hold down an enemy. Like those little moments are cool. Drawing a lot of comparisons to other games I've played, some jokingly, some not. Like where I'm like, oh, this scene looks like The Last of Us, like in terms of shot. I'm like, this stealth feels like Days Gone, and I know people got mad at that, but it did have that same, I think, sort of like foresty, like encampment nature. Like it was interesting seeing sort of the DNA of like games that have come out after or came out before, whatever, sort of integrated and picking up on those, design elements. But yeah, we'll see how things go. Not too much puzzles yet. I did like, sure. I think 2 or 3 at this point. They do feel a little bit better than the older ones because like the puzzles from Uncharted like 1 through 3, a lot of the puzzle was, let's look at my book of the answer, and then you just do it. And this requires like a few more steps, which I've liked. My brother's basically on the same boat as I am, where the last session we did was more enjoyable. The stealth is solid, and the climbing is fun. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm so excited.
Me and my jank brother playing in real life with my actual non-jank brother, and we're just here for the ride. We'll see how it goes.
All right. I'm excited for the updates. I want to see if it'll actually make you excited to play Lost Legacy, if that can get there.
Excited strong, but I think we might just have to. I don't know. I guess.
I mean, you made it this far.
We're at the end, but it's been such a long journey, y'all. Started, you were like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, am I still here?
You're here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it is what it is. This is the job. Like, we got to know what goes down. So, yeah, check out the thread. I'll be updating as we play together and work through the story.
If you love Nadine kicking ass, like that's all Uncharted Lost Legacy
That's the thing.
Is Nadine and Chloe kicking ass.
And like when I made that comment of like Lost Legacy, like, oh, it's cool, it has women. It's like, obviously that's not the end all be all of the game, but I think that is, a huge appeal point for a lot of people. And it's another angle of the story. It has less of the, so much of Uncharted is kind of, people have messaged me and be like, oh, it's like a classic, like kind of bro-y game because of like the story arc and the invincibility of Nathan Drake. And he's out here lying to his wife and it's just like the vibe. And it's like, yeah, I don't fuck with Nathan Drake because he's like kind of a piece of shit. But yeah, Chloe and Nadine, that would be cool.
I think that is what made Uncharted Lost Legacy probably my favorite Uncharted game, is that it took me away from Nathan Drake. And, I don't dislike Nathan Drake. I think he's cool. I think Sully's wonderful. But I had already had so much of that, and so many video games do have that kind of character in it that when it switches to Nadine and Chloe, I felt like it was way more refreshing in terms of the energy, in terms of the story, in terms of how it embedded Chloe specifically, her culture into the actual story itself, and tied that into the treasure they're looking for. I really like that, and so I think there's stuff that you might enjoy there too.
Also, like fitness goals, these Naughty Dog women, man, they be so stacked, like. They just be knocking people out like it's crazy. And also, yeah, forever shout out to Sully. When he showed up, I was like, Sully's here. This is the only person I fuck with. Like, Sully is just the freaking best, man.
He's such a good dad. You know what I'm saying, Janet?
Yeah, and then he'd be like looking out, and then when he has that line again, like, light spoilers for Uncharted 4, where they're like talking. Nathan takes like a call on the balcony, and then he's talking to like his piece of shit brother, and he's like, why do you care? I gotta look out for him. Someone has to. And my brother were like, damn, calling you out on your jank shit. Oh, behind Nathan's back, so we don't know his brother trash. Like, I do like the some of the drama of this one. I will say though, falling into like, I don't want to say like necessarily bad tropes, because they're just tropes. You could argue whether or not they're useful or not. But I will say one of the problems with like Uncharted for me, like definitely was in the front end of this game so far, where it was like, when the brother gets like, he's dead. My real life brother was like, he's not dead. Like, it's fine. Like, they do this all the time. Like, you see a lot of the things just repeat, and it ends up being like, okay, let me guess. And it just becomes kind of dull and predictable and almost a little bit annoying. So I've liked that they've at least started to move in a more generalized direction for like this second session of the game versus like the first end felt very formulaic and like, I have played this Uncharted game. How many times have we been to prison? Like, let's go. Like, it's the same thing over and over again. But it's kind of starting to like open up a little bit now that we're just like in the caves, like hanging out, being bros.
Yeah, I think that's where, to your point, right? And I think, you can come up with your things about it or whatever. But like for Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 and Nathan Drake being a piece of shit, right? Like, it's the idea that he never evolves. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's that grasp of it's a pulp adventure. So that, you know, it's akin to Indiana Jones, who is, you know, always the, you know, and granted he ages. So like Harrison Ford has to change by the most recent one. Right. But for classic Indy, like it is a jump in every time, and you kind of know where you're going to be and who Indiana Jones is. And so they do that with Nathan. But the problem is people loved him and Elena. Right. So it's like, that's always going to be at the crux of it. So it's this push and pull of like, it ends happily for them, but then by the start of the next game, they have to be broken up. They have to not be together. They have to, and like you do it again and again. So like you're never seeing Nate really grow up, which is what's great, I think, about Uncharted 4 is that at least it starts with them not being broken up, even though it starts with him being unhappy, and then the journey throughout that game, and then specifically
who is it, right? It's
where
like
it ends.
Relatable. It's like look at this washed man in the attic, just like looking at old like love notes from people like on some jank stuff while his wife's cooking dinner. It's like it's. It's
Who
the
hasn't
vibes.
been there? Who hasn't been there?
Yeah, right. Like we can all relate. But yeah, so we'll see how this one ends up panning out. I will say one thing that my brother brought up, and we had to watch because I kind of forgot like all the small like plot details of like 1 through 3 because it's been a few years. So I watched like a recap, and definitely in watching the recap, you do start to see how like, oh yeah, this is very much the same elements repeating, and it's like, oh, get the thing. Like I heard Shinjimani Stone so many times that. I saw in the attic, I was like, Jesus Christ, please no. But my brother's like, after all this, right, 1 through 3, you're telling me Nathan's still broke? Like, what's going on with that? Like, he didn't get like a couple coins.
He's always got to
like,
leave the treasure behind because it's some kind of fun. It's going to
They
turn
got
everybody to monsters.
a nice house for this economy. You know what I'm saying?
I'm guessing
Janet?
he's like, by the time, I think he overscoped the project, like the budget, he just barely broke even by the end of it. And it's like, what was this all for?
That's true. Blessing, what have you been playing? Because you said you thought we've been playing the same thing when I talked about a wholesome game that's been warming my heart.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
When I look back at the doc, I was like, nah, he's talking about a different game now that I think about it. But the game I was talking about was Dodgeball Academia. I played quite a bit of that. So Janet at the top of the show mentioned that, you had your staycation. You played, you said you played a lot of video games, right?
I played some.
You played some video games.
Yeah.
I did have a mini, I don't even know if I can call it a vacation even at this point. I took off Friday because I was planning to have, the plan was for me to take off Friday.
You had
Monday.
a 3-day weekend, bud.
I was going to take off Friday and Monday because friends were going to fly in and we're going to hang out all weekend. It was going to be like a mini vacation for me. But they canceled because that Delta variant got real scary. and so like I still had Friday off. So I was like, you know what, man, let me just play some video games. And so I played the hell out of quite a few video games, including Dodgeball Academia. Dodgeball Academia, we talked a little bit about it last week. It is a dodgeball RPG that is akin to something like Golf Story or even Pokemon in some instances, where you play as this kid named Otto. If you're watching the video version, it's that kid in the front right there. Otto is a new student at Dodgeball Academia, and he wants to be a really dope dodgeball player, right? Like that's his dream. He wants to grow up and play dodgeball. Dodgeball is a big thing in this world and in this school. And so he attends the school. He starts to make friends, and he starts to train up for this dodgeball tournament that the school is having. And it is probably most comparable, I would say, to Golf Story in the way that you live in this world that is all about this one sport, but then also the dialogue and the flow of the game feels very Golf Story in terms of the humor. Like it is a game that is trying to be very light in its tone and funny at times, and it goes from that into having its combat sequences, which we were asking the questions last week of, is this turn-based? Like, how does this work? It basically plays almost like a beat 'em up where you get into a fight and it is a dodgeball match that is real time, but the balls are on the court and you run to them to pick them up, and you are trying to take down your opponent's health bars. And so you can throw the same ball at one guy like 5 times, and it might take those 5 balls to bring his health all the way down to 0. And you have special moves. You have a charged shot that you can do with Otto. Your charged shot will basically grant like a flame ability to where if you hit somebody with the charged ball, it'll put them on fire, right? You might get another character on your team that has like a lightning ability, and skills kind of build that way in terms of the charged shots. But then you also have your super move, which does a different thing. For Otto, he does like a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball Z kind of move. Or like for another character, they might freeze time or something like that. It's stuff like that. And I'd say it's really fun. It's funny because going into this game, during the actual dodgeball matches, I keep trying to play them like I'm playing Knockout City. And
I was just about to mention Knockout City. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a Knockout City killer.
It's
Obviously,
been
they're very different games.
it's been fucking me. Yeah, they're real different games. It's been fucking me up so much because I'll try to catch based off of Knockout City timing, but the timing in this game is way different from Knockout City timing. Similar mechanic, like you can catch a ball, right? And you can also dodge a ball, which in Knockout City, I guess you can do that too, but
You can't dodge a wrench.
You can't dodge a wrench. In Knockout City, I think it's more incentivized to catch or rather than dodge, depending on like the situation. But in this game, either is viable, and in fact, most of the time, I'd say it's easier to actually dodge a ball than to actually catch the ball. But like, yeah, the actual action in the game, I'd say is pretty fun. I've been enjoying the actual dialogue and the RPG elements too. Like you level up your squad. I think I mentioned Pokemon earlier. Like you'll walk around the school to go and do your objectives, but as you're walking around, you'll have other students that if they make eye contact with you, they'll immediately challenge you to a dodgeball fight for some stupid reason. They're like, "Oh, you looked at me wrong. Let's play dodgeball."
Oh, yeah.
It's stuff like that, which I really
Classic.
dig because it adds again to like the lightheartedness. Like it very much does have a Pokemon energy to it, even in the way that it transitions to battle. You know, when you make eye contact with that player and they challenge you to a battle, the way that like the screen will fade to black, it has like a cool like wipe animation where like the screen will there's a specific word for this type of transition. I'll need a Roger here to actually tell me the exact one, but it basically comes from like the top and bottom bars will fill down and then like transition to battle in a really fun way, and I really dig that. But yeah, I've been loving it. The characters are fun. The story is fun. It's episodic, and so it's divided into I believe like 8 episodes. I'm on episode 5 right now, so I'm most of the way through the game. And each episode seems to actually do something pretty different. Like the whole game, you're trying to win this dodgeball tournament at your school, but you know, episode 2 might have a robot invasion. Episode 3 might be like a different thing. Like it's very goofy and different with the things that it does with its episodes, and I think that really helps out the pacing of it and keeps it really interesting. And so, really enjoying it. You know, I'm having way more of a fun time than I even expected in this game. Oh, and one thing I do need to shout out, which is my favorite thing about this game, the art style is really awesome. When we talked about it last week, you know, I compared it to a Cartoon Network kind of art style. I think Barrett mentioned Gumball specifically, which I think is a way more adequate way to describe it. But it is that in the character design, and for the interactable things in the world, they all have that very cartoony 2D flat style to them. But then the actual world you're walking through and exploring through is actually 3D. It is the art style of the actual world reminds me of something like Katamari or like something along those lines in terms of being colorful and polygonal and like it's very simplified, but it's fun to look at and walk through. And I love the juxtaposition between those two different art styles in the one game because I think it's really good to look at this game. And so yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
On my hunt, everything's fine, everything's great, don't worry. But I had a horrible fucking weekend, right? Just like the most stressful fucking time, and everything's fine. It wasn't like a baby thing or anything like that. It was a porty thing in an emergency room, and then like a bunch of shit around the house not working and crap like that. You know what I mean? So whatever. So like when I finally got to sit down and play games, I was looking for like that. I just want something that'll be fun and not too like not stressful or anything like that. I don't know what I was looking for, but I was looking for something wholesome. I figured out in the end, right? I booted this up and I played it for a bit, liked what I played, just got through the intro, didn't get deep into it. Played a couple games of dodgeball against people who came up to me. I liked the mechanics of dodgeball, but I was with you, Blessed, of how the perspective and art style caught me, right?
Yeah.
Where I wasn't expecting it to be like that. And it actually reminded me of Chris Tales, which dropped a couple weeks ago on PSN that I also had booted up and played because it looks so stunning in trailers and looks stunning in the way the art interacts with the world and the way you run through it. So that was the same thing for me. Again, as a cursory glance at it, I enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed the mechanics. I'm looking forward to eventually getting back to it. But it was last night with like the text slowly popping up and the amount of text I was getting from it. I'm like, I get it. This isn't what I'm looking for, right? And so it actually transitions in because the next thing I went and tried was Alba, a wildlife adventure. This is a game I've had on my PlayStation for a while. Janet Garcia, it's our favorite, where Apple Arcade. This is an Apple Arcade game that has been out there forever. But I had seen it, wanted to get to it on Apple Arcade even, and never did. And so when I heard it was coming to PlayStation, was excited to get it and play it and get it down. But again, similar to what I was talking about at the top of the show many topics ago, in terms of being in the mood for a game, I had to be in the mood for this. And this is hit so fucking perfectly. So the idea here is that you are Alba, this little girl, if you're watching, in a red cap, right, who comes to visit her grandparents on the Mediterranean Sea and run around this island village, talking to the people there who know you as, you know, the granddaughter. And the idea is that, you know, you are there to free roam the island, take photos of the different animals on it, and this is a bunch of quests and things tied to it of what's going on. And the idea is that it is this sun-splashed island. You are this little kid, and the devs call it a chillectathon because it's just a chill experience where you run through and collect. And it should fucking have a platinum trophy. Remember, if you're an independent developer watching this and you ask PlayStation for a platinum trophy and they say no, ask again and they will give it to you. I swear to you, this is how it works. It doesn't have a platinum, I'm sure, because it is a smaller, shorter experience. It is just broken up into the days of your trip or whatever. But for me playing right now, I'm doing the thing where I'm not even really going for the main objective. I'm just wandering the island, finding new birds and animals that I haven't taken photos of. Because the gameplay is that you go through with your grandmother's leftover phone. You have on it a wildlife, little encyclopedia. And so you go through, you look at animals you haven't captured yet or taken a photo of yet. You take a photo and add them to the guide, and there you go. You build it out that way. And so, you know, as you get going, it is that this, it turns out that there was a wildlife preserve here that had been damaged. We all went to what we thought was going to be the grand reopening, but the mayor has announced that he's going to build a luxury hotel there. And so exactly. Now it's Alba and her friend running around trying to get signatures to stop this and protect all the species of animals there. And so you take photos and you discover more animals, and it obviously makes more people care about the animals. And on top of that, like, that's you adorable. Run around and there's trash on the ground, and you stop and you pick it up and throw it in. You get a little heart. You see people's laundry basket and their laundry hanging. You collect that, you put it in a laundry basket, you get a little heart. And it's just this thing of the world is so beautiful. The characters are so colorful, both literally and figuratively. The soundtrack is amazing. The sound effects are so great. Like, I am so happy playing it. And I feel like that's always one of those things that is what's so special about video games, right? To come off a really crappy weekend and be in a really bad mindset for, like, you know, honestly, since last Wednesday with all this stuff. Again, Porty's fine. It's all fine. But like, to be put through the ringer and of emotionally and get here and have this game that is so charming to the point of, like, you know, I put in my notes of like the way you saw it in the trailer early on, but like when you're running around the island, you can do the stop, like, his animals will get spooked, obviously, if they see you or whatever. So you do a little stop and you do a little crawl up to them. But when you are just running to your next objective, Alba will skip, and it's just like the most lighthearted, like, oh, it makes you feel good. And they've captured what it was like to be a kid and just run around doing whatever you're about to go do, or, you know, screwing around to go see your grandparents or whatever. And it's the same way of, like, people will ask you questions in the game, and it'll cut to a shot of Alba, and, you know, you use the joystick to either nod your head yes or shake your head no. Like, it's so charming what they've built here. And you know, it's a $20 price tag. Again, it's a game you could get on Apple Arcade, for $5 a month or whatever it is. So it's like, there's that value proposition to it. Again, I don't think it's that long. It's broken up by days. I would say I'm my trophies, I think right now, and I don't think I sunk them, but I think I'm done. Yeah, it says right now I'm through day 1, but I think I might have completed day 2, and it looks like there's 6 days overall. Like, that's not what it's about. It's about that experience of exploring the island. Like, I'm sure I could main path it a lot quicker than I am, but I'm trying to, like, check off every animal that I can and possibly have done. I'm just having a great time with it. So it's really hitting at a time when I need it. Blessing, what else have you been playing?
I've been playing a trifecta of multiplayer games. I'll start off with Apex Legends Season 10 that just came out this last week. And it added in a new character, being Seer. They made some weapon changes. They added in a new weapon called Rampage, which I absolutely adore this weapon. It slaps. But then also they added in just new stuff around all around the game, including a new arenas map. And I've played only just a little bit of it. I played it for a kind of funny stream, and then I played a little bit of it off stream as well. And I've been really enjoying this new update. I've been enjoying Seer as a character. His whole thing is, one, he's Nigerian, shout out. But then also he has this cool ability where he is a tracking character similar to Bloodhound, if you're familiar with Bloodhound from Apex, and he has a passive ability where when he's aiming down sights, he has kind of like a sound locator, and so you can tell where other players are at on the map based off of the sound they're making and what direction your reticle points to. And so it's a good way to kind of hunt people down, and it's a good way in the way that Bloodhound as a tracker, when they use their scan, they reveal the characters' locations all around. But as Seer, I feel like I have to be way more active in terms of communicating to my team and being like, oh, actually, this person is to the front of us, but like to our left. Oh, actually, no, it looks like this person is below us. Oh, this person is over here. You kind of have to be a little bit more active with Seer, which I like, because it feels like if I'm able to communicate well during a match, then I even have more of an advantage using Seer over somebody like Bloodhound. But then there's also the other ability where his tactical sends like a blast through the map, like a forward blast, and if an enemy gets caught in that blast, then they're also revealed to your team, but then they also take a bit of damage, and then they flinch for a little bit, and it's kind of fucked up with balancing a little bit in Apex, because that means that if you know that another team is healing, if they're trying to revive or do any sort of thing, if you use that blast, it'll cancel it out. And that has caused uproar in the Apex community a little bit, because people do not like that. And I think they're actually taking steps to possibly remove that effect from that ability. But, aside from all that, I've really been enjoying Seer as a character. I've been using him a lot in arenas, and I've been enjoying arenas as well a lot. The one thing I will say is that there's a new map that they've added to arenas that I don't love. I don't know the name of the map, but it's basically it takes place in Olympus, and it is two large skyscraper buildings that are a bit of a far distance apart from each other, and it's very much a sniping map, and I do not like it. I think part of that is I just don't prefer sniping in Apex. I know some people are probably way better at that than I am, but you kind of fall back into these sniping battles each time on that map, and it's just not a pleasant experience. And so that I've not been loving. Seer I have been loving. The Rampage gun I have been loving as well. It is a very powerful gun that you can load in thermite grenades into, and it's very satisfying to use when you get a kill in there. And so shout out to that. I've also been playing Hunters Arena Legends.
Oh, the fighting one, right?
This is the 30-player, I think it's 30-player battle royale game. PS Plus is free right now. And yeah, it is way more melee and actual like fighting focused than the traditional FPS or third-person shooter battle royales that plenty of people have been playing. And I'm actually surprised by how much I've been enjoying it. I was not expecting much when I first booted it up, because it came out of nowhere. It's a PS Plus game, has a very generic name to it. Like I had to scroll over to make sure I got the name right. Hunters Arena Legends. That is the most generic video game name I think I've seen literally this year. But the game itself,
Congratulations.
actually, yeah, congratulations. You can put that on the back of the box.
Just the quote everybody wants for their game.
Yeah. Game itself actually pretty fun. And so I've been playing with my friends Yami, and then I played a bit with Yusef, and it is kind of a battle royale mixed in with a bit of MOBA to it, because you launch into these maps and they have I think Legend or League of Legends calls them creeps. I just call them ads because that's what I know them as from Destiny. So I'm just gonna say ads. But they have like these enemies that are spread around the map that aren't player control. They're just bot enemies, and you take them out to level up your character. And as you're playing through the match, you're trying to level up your character, akin to something like a MOBA.
I was gonna say, yeah, mobile like. Yeah.
Yeah, very mobile-like, and the higher you level your character up, the stronger you're going to be against other players. But it is battle royale, right? It is last team standing wins, and so you're also doing looting as well. Loot will fall out of enemies. Loot will you can also find loot in the map as well, and you're trying to level up as much as possible to take out other players. And I've been having a surprisingly really fun time. Like playing this game has made me wonder if I'd actually like MOBAs more than I actually thought. In terms of the actual fighting mechanics, those have been hit and miss for me, no pun intended, where like I like the idea of it. I like how it feels some of the time, but then other times it feels like it can be very inaccurate in terms of, hey, I just want to hit this person, but I feel like I am chasing them throughout the map. Like if somebody disengages and runs, I feel like sometimes I am chasing those people for minutes on end, or vice versa, where I disengage from somebody and I take off, and it is just a chase of me running and them running at the same speed, and me looking back and they're still behind me minutes later, and they're just waiting to kill me, and then eventually they kill me and it's game over. That flow of it I don't love as much, but I do enjoy the different characters and the different abilities and how separate they are. Like you can have it's like any sort of class-based multiplayer game where you can have a character that is based on healing, and so if you use your ability, you can heal your teammates around you or take the damage that your teammates are taking and apply them to your character, or you can have a character that has just a very powerful melee attack. Like the special abilities range from that. Seems to have a lot of depth to it. The control scheme seems very complicated at first, but by match 3 or 4, I understood it. But it was very intimidating when I first booted it up. And the game I think has a way to go in terms of being more player friendly, because things as simple as finishing a match and then wanting to back out, I didn't understand for the first couple of matches, and then I realized that once I finish a match or once I get taken out, I have to hold options instead of just pressing it and piecing out, or instead of it just automatically doing it. Stuff like that I wish was a little bit more streamlined, and a little bit more understandable. Because I think the core of what's there in the game is fun and good, but it can get really complicated to get into. But for a new PS Plus game that came out of nowhere seemingly, I had a fairly fun time. Like, usually I don't check out PlayStation Plus.
I had a fairly fun time. Another ringing endorsement, Fox quote.
Yeah, take that as a box quote. So
fairly
I played that.
Fun time with this generic name.
And then a game that I'd had more than a fairly fun time with, Splitgate. Splitgate is available on PlayStation, and it's in beta form. I've been playing it for the last couple of days, and I've been having an absolute blast with it. Splitgate, if you're unaware, is a mixture between Halo and Portal. It is basically a multiplayer arena shooter, but you have Portal abilities. And so if you look at the live video that's playing right now for video watchers, right, there are certain surfaces that are marked in blue that you can shoot a portal onto, and it works exactly like a Portal game would work, where you can just go through a portal and out the other, you can go into the first portal you shot, out the second portal you shot, and then traverse that way. And it's honestly, it's one of those things where if I told you the idea for this game, Halo meets Portal, it sounds like a game that would be good. Like, that sounds like a thing that would work, but it works way better than it even sounds. Like, it is a really fun game. It is really good for like strategically placing your portal. If you want to put a portal above where you think your enemies are, and then put a portal near you, and then aim out of that portal and take out your enemies from behind, you can do that. I was playing last night with Mike, Khalif, and Andy, and the whole time, like, we were just doing sick plays, and it was that thing where when you have a great kill streak, or you make some dope ass kills, like the calls you make, right? You're like, oh man, let's fucking go, or oh man, I just destroyed that guy. That was happening throughout the session we were playing, where we just felt great the whole way through, just making all these different plays. And yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I would recommend anybody go check it out. It is free to play right now for the beta. I believe it will be paid once it comes out officially, but right now anybody can jump in and have fun with it. And the only thing is that right now it has wait queues, and so if you boot up the game, you might have to wait a few minutes before you actually are able to get into a lobby. But the actual game itself, I am very impressed with it. I think it works super well. I enjoy the shooting. I enjoy the weapons. The modes are awesome. There's a mode called SWAT, which is basically headshots are automatic kills. And that is such a great time. There's a shoddy snipers mode where it is shotguns and snipers, and that has also been a very great time. I've just been having a blast with this game nonstop, and so that's my trifecta of multiplayer games I've been playing.
Because we're looking at this gameplay here, so you can still go into enemies' portals, but you can't see where those lead, correct?
Correct. And so, yeah, if your
really
enemies put out portals, and even if your teammates put out portals, you can't see through those portals, but you can go through them.
Okay.
And so it's a risk. And so there's also the thing of when you put up your portals, and if you want to take people out through your portals, your enemies don't see you, right? Like, they just see an enemy portal. And so it's a terrifying thing when you're going through a match and you see an enemy portal on the wall, because they might be staring at you and ready to kill you, and you just have no idea. But you do have a grenade on you that is specifically for taking out portals. And so if you see an enemy portal, throw a grenade at it, that takes out the portal.
That's really cool.
Very fun game.
I did a very cursory Google before. I remember we played this, and I thought it was for a Let's Play, but maybe it was for a stream or whatever. But I know Kind of Funny's done.
No, I remember because we had that was like one of the ones where we set you guys back up in like the back room and stuff, and I had to install it on like one of my accounts and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that was for a party mode, I believe.
It had an early access PC version like a year or so ago, maybe at least 2 years ago at this point, because I remember playing it too. I played it on PC when that came out, but I only played it for a few days and enjoyed it, and then bounced off. But jumping back into it on PlayStation, I'm like, yeah, this is the one right here.
There you go. Everybody can go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. See us play it if you want to understand what's
Do
going on.
you remember dominating in it? Did you?
Of course not. No, I'm not
No?
the shooter guy. I remember Tim, I think, honestly dominating it because it was a lot like Halo. He was having a good time thinking it was like Halo. And Andy, of course, was playing. He was good. Nick sucked. Nick's garbage as
Of
always.
course.
You know,
I mean, what's he gonna
trash.
do, right? He's probably
Big
trying
trash.
to shoot portals on non-portal services. He's
Exactly.
probably struggling.
He looks like he's
before we
looking
get outta
down
here-
at his phone in this Let's Play. So, yeah.
That's
He is.
exactly like it sounds a lot like
It
Nick,
was
right?
getting
That
important
sounds
intel, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, look behind you. It's like, oh, okay, there you go.
Barry, one thing I want to get out of before we get out of here, I want you to click on the link I put in there. Just, of course, I'll keep it short. I want it on the record, of course, that our Avengers team did beat the Omega level threat. Thank you. This is the hardest content in Avengers. Thank you, Blessing. Thank you, Janet. Fran captured it on his stream as we finally beat the Super Adaptoid. I want to tell you, it felt so fulfilled, so honored, but I was broken at this point because we had, of course, done it on launch week. We played for 3.5 hours, couldn't do it. We didn't do enough DPS. We then spent all of the 4 XP weekend and multiple days building to get good enough to get in there and do it this time. And it seemed like for a while there, we weren't going to be able to do it until we switched some stuff to freeze. We got into the freeze, the cryo builds, we did it. But there was a moment where I was like, this isn't fucking fun. And I was screaming about it. But then we beat it and I was like, this was the best time of my entire life. I fucking love this stupid game. You know what I mean? And I can't wait for Black Panther next week. Let's see what happens. It'll be great. Shout out to my team. And shout out to you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this episode of PS I Love You XOXO. Remember, of course, the show isn't over. We have a post show to do over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you can go to write in to be part of the show, where you can go to get the show ad-free, where you could be watching the entire thing live, just like Stefan, Max, and Dave. If you're watching live, thank you so much. We'll see you on Patreon. If you're not watching live and you're watching later on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or podcast services around the globe, thank you as always for your support, your love, your appreciation. Remember to write in for next week. We'll have more to talk about. And actually, no, that's not. Embargoes. You know what I mean? Trying to get me on stuff. You're not going to get me on stuff. Don't worry about it. I forgot how I juggled it, but I remember now, and it doesn't matter for you. Janet.
Yes.
You're, of course, on Kind of Funny all the time now, but if people wanted to keep up with you, where could they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at GameOnysus. That's GameOnysus. And like I said, I already had the site, but I rebranded it to Pen to Pixels, which also has a Twitter and a YouTube channel and the site and everything. But you can get through all that through my Twitter. So yeah.
On top of that, Janet, I want you to tell me about Crash 4 and Overcooked All You Can Eat when we get into the post show. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Then, ladies and gentlemen, come to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames if you want to hear us talk about more games. And if you don't, because I still got to talk Back for Blood with One Blessing at AOU Jr. as well, too. But if you don't want to do that, then we'll see you next time. Because until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.